Let's give him the praise. Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Shema, Yahshua, Yahweh, Allahayana, Yahweh, Shema, Yahshua, Yahweh, Allahayana, Yahweh. Let's go. Every day is a blessing. I'ma give you praise from all we go through in our meditation. No greater love than you, the rebuke we take. No other God before you. Don't do the pain. Revelation 1:14. Don't do the gravy. On the Sabbath day we rest. We don't do complaining. You hear that murmur in the wilderness, he gives us straight. Hear that murmur in the wilderness, he gives us straight. That's what he wants from you. Yahweh, anything you say, we do. Everything in that word is true. It's true. It's true. Yeah. Going owe it all to you. We owe it all to you. The praise we give it all to you. Say Israel, get on one accord. One Lord, one Lord, one God. Yahshua, Yahshua, Yahweh, Allahayana, Yahweh, Yahshua, Yahweh. Allahayana, Yahweh. We gon' give him praise, we gon' give him praise. Face the east when we pray, we gon' move in faith. Say the prayers of the righteous abide as much. Put our trust in the Father, got the Midas touch. We gon' lead by example, with the guys and such. 1 Timothy 4:20, Spirit God in us. And we gon' cast away the Spirit abide in us. And we gon' cast the flesh down. The mind is gonna Yahweh, anything you say, I do.
No, it's broadcast live.
In your word is true. It's true. It's true. Yeah. Go, we owe it all to you. Go, we owe it all to you. The praise we give it all to you. Say Israel, get on one accord. One Lord, one God. Shema, Yahshua, Yahweh, Allahayana, Yahweh, Shema, Yahshua, Yahweh, Allahayana, Yahweh. One Lord, one God.
They should have them like.
One Lord, one God.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. This is Hebrew Chosen Elect. Back at you with another Sabbath service that we hold here in Wilmington, Delaware, every Shabbat from 1, usually start time 1 to about 4 p.m. This week we'll be picking right back up with part 2 of our No Thanks, No Giving series, proving the Native Americans of the North, South, and Caribbean islands are the true children of Israel, the 10 lost tribes of the Northern Kingdom. Before we get started, we're going to start off with announcements, and then we'll get right into the class. First and foremost, we'll start announcements with reading out of the book of Jonah 2 and 8, and it reads, "They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy." Why are we going here? Because here in America, it's that time of year again. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all the folly and wicked holidays that this country keeps and our people observe. It's that time again. We just had Halloween. Now it's on to Thanksgiving, the celebration and holiday that's based off of the slaughter of our ancestors. And our people every year get together at this holiday and really turn up to give thanks for the killing of their ancestors. And it's sad. And the scripture says, "They that observe these lying vanities forsake their own mercy." So auntie, grandma, and them just taking you to church every Sunday and talking about Lord Jesus, but then got you praying over pig butt, because that's what ham is on Thanksgiving, and coming together and celebrating all these holidays. You guys are forsaking the mercy that comes from Jesus Christ, as the world calls him, Yahushua Mashiach. Observing these worldly holidays, these American folly days, it is forsaking your own mercy. So we are exhorting our people that we have to come out of that, learn who you are, and come back to the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High God. And with the Most High God's commandments and laws, he gives us holidays to observe. And that's our first announcement.
Like he gives us holy days to observe. And if you observe them, you got way more holy days to observe anyway, because most of the festivals that we were given to observe are 7 to 8 days long. And you're actually commemorating things that our ancestors went through, and you're refining our culture. Secondly, I want to add to what the brother said, like you're observing lying vanities and you're forsaking your own mercy. Now they added another false holy day out there in the world too. They celebrating something in the schools called Diwali. Yeah, I mean they made that a national holiday in the schools, which is it comes from Hindu culture.
It's Indian, right?
Yeah, Indian. Mm-hmm. So if your kids are going to school, they making your kids participate in a holiday called Diwali. Yeah, I mean, and it's a celebration of multiple different gods. Mm-hmm. So beware if you're a part of the Hebrew community and you sending your kids to school, because they making your kids celebrate other gods by participating in these other holidays like Diwali. Secondly, these holidays, they also are observances of other gods. And the Most High God, he does not want you to put any other god before him. You know what I mean? If you can pick any of these holidays, we've been able to run it down, and you can pick any of these holidays and thereafter any false god you can think of. Even with Thanksgiving is the celebration of something called cornucopia. It's a harvest festival, and even though they put it on the broad scale of it being Native American slaughter, which they did do these things and throw several harvest feast killings, because the Native Americans taught them how to farm and fish and so on and so forth. They were already celebrating a holiday called cornucopia in the honor of this false god called Seriella. Yeah, I mean, so it also is the worship of another god. And then you move on to Christmas, it's the birthday of Nimrod, and so on and so forth. And like I said, you could pick any of these so-called holidays and go down the line, and then you move into the new year, and it's the worship of a false god called Janus, and it just keeps going on and on and on. So any of these so-called holidays is the worship of another god, and this is another way to see if your church is going off. If your pastor celebrate any of these holidays in the church, they going off and celebrating another god in the church. It's not the God of the Bible, and they not giving any commemoration to Yahushua, who the world called Jesus the Christ.
Well said. And yeah, these are indeed lying vanities. And like the scripture said, you forsake your own mercy. So what we need to do as a people is forsake these lying vanities. And that rolls us right along to that first announcement, and that's the upcoming holy days that's been established by the Most High God or a righteous people. That being said, the upcoming feast of Hanukkah. As a camp, everybody here will be observing the feast of Hanukkah, December 26th, and the following 7 days, because it's an 8-day feast. So the first day being the 26th, and then the next 7 days after that, we'll be observing the feast of Hanukkah. So America, the European Caucasians, so-called white man, who we know as Esau, they give us Christmas. We find in the book of Maccabees, we turned around and we got that was Saturnalia, and we turned around and got our temple back and rededicated that temple. That's what Hanukkah means in Hebrew. And it was at the same time they were celebrating Saturnalia, that same time we took the temple back, rededicated it, and this is where we get the feast of Hanukkah chiefly, but also you find through other scriptures, and we'll do a breakdown when we get closer to the feast of Hanukkah, but you also find we dedicated the tabernacle, we dedicated the first temple. So we celebrate this feast of dedication. It's in commemoration, and it was established in the book of Maccabees, where you'll read about it.
Cool.
December 26th, and then the following 7 days. So that's what the world knows as Hanukkah, feast of dedication. Same thing. Hanukkah being the Hebrew term for dedication. In this feast, we exhort all of our people, brothers and sisters, to, we don't have a temple no more. Rededicate yourself to keeping these commandments and walking this walk. And just same way as we did atonement, the same thing, always renewing ourselves. So feast of dedication, we don't have a temple, but your body is a temple according to the scriptures. So let us rededicate our bodies to serving the Most High God. After that, actually before that, Salakia, next new moon, December 2nd. Next new moon, December 2nd. Then January 30th. And then we have Feast of Purim coming up, and also the other new moons. If you don't got anything else to add on that, we'll move on to the next announcement. But yeah, so once again, come out of these wicked folly days that your oppressor gave you, and come back to the holy days of the Most High God. Next announcement.
Hebrew Chosen Elect. We present the Marshall Yasharala 6th annual Give It All You Got coat drive. The location, we're going to probably be at 26th and Market, Salaki at 24th and Market Streets here in Wilmington, Delaware, past the coats. We are actively taking donations. If you'd like to give a donation, hit me, Brother Gamari, up on Facebook. My name is Brandon Daniels.
That's next.
Okay, on Facebook. And we'll probably do the actual physical coat drive on December 21st. We have not set that in stone, but that's what we're probably aiming for. And if you'd like to get December 21st. Okay. And if you'd like to give any monetary donations, you can give any monetary donations at BDanny01 on Cash App. If you'd like to give physical donations, like I said, hit us up. If you'd like to give like even a box of chips, or even a box of juice or something like that, we do pass bag lunches along with giving out coats at the same time. So if you'd like to contribute to that, hit us up.
Or even come out and help. It's more than welcome and greatly appreciated. Anybody, we appreciate any of your donations coming up and any of your living sacrifices you're willing to offer. We appreciate all those things ahead of time. And you're more than welcome to come out and help with this coat drive. Cool. Next announcement, you want to do it? Go ahead,
I kind of leaned into it.
Yeah, you was leaning into it.
Yeah, if you'd like to hit me or Brother Gamari up, hit us up on Facebook. You hit Brother Gamari up at We Are Israel, Gamaria Yasha Allah on Facebook. You can hit me up, Brandon Daniels, Yakana Maccabee Yasha Allah on Facebook. If you'd like to comment on any of our videos, we'll answer back to you. You can see our videos on the Rise of the Chosen on Facebook, HCE Red Pill Reality, and HCE Reloaded on YouTube. If you have any questions, comments, concern, leave a comment.
And please like, subscribe, and share. That's it for announcements. Let me get out of here. Close that out. Okay, so yeah, once again, we're continuing on in our no thanks, no giving series. Our series leading up to the upcoming Folly Day that America is giving us to celebrate the slaughter of our people, right? So leading up, we've been breaking down we've been breaking down the fact that the Native American Indians of North, South, and Caribbean America are the lost tribes of the House of Israel. Our previous class, part 1, we went through some archaeology and historical writings from Edomite scholars, their own pen, the same people that came over here, enslaved and slaughtered the natives of this land, as well as the so-called Negro. Those same people left behind writings, and their own pen tells that what they already knew, our people are finding out today, before the quote-unquote black Hebrew Israelites was coming out and saying that Native American Indians are the true Israelites, blacks are the true Israelites. They were already saying this and writing it down when these things were taking place.
Good.
And through time, they've hidden these things. Because why? Because they knew that the world was made for the Israelites. And if we keep these people in the dark and not in the knowledge of who they are, they will stay in sin. They won't come back to the commandments, and we will continue to reign over the earth. But in these last days, the Most High is waking up his people, and that's changing. So this week, we're going into part 2. We're going to finish up a little bit of the historical accounts from Esau and his pen, but then chiefly we're going to move from there into proving through the Bible, the prophecy, curses, and who fits the Israelites in the Bible. We're going to be proving the Native American Indians to be the true lost tribes of the children of Israel through the Bible today. After we finish up with our archaeological evidence and the evidence of their own scholars when they came and began to slaughter and enslave our people in the 1400s.
Good.
So 1 second, I'm gonna fix my screen and share my screen, and we'll get right back into it. And this will be starting off that book right there. All right. Okay, so this week we're picking right back up where we left off. This time we're going back into the book, The 10 Tribes of Israel, wrote by Timothy R. Jenkins. 10 Tribes of Israel, wrote by Timothy R. Jenkins. We went into this book a little bit last week. We're going right back in there to start off this lesson this week. Part 2, let's go.
The book of the 10 Tribes of Israel,
part of
page 3. The Potawatomi Indians call the Mississippi Mishpah, which is plainly derived from Messiah, Moses, and Pawa, father, which means Father Moses, and we call it the Father of Waters.
So see that? So last week we kind of went into the similarities of the languages of the Native American Indians and how closely they resemble the ancient Hebrew, right? So this, the author is giving an account now of the Potawatomi Indians calling the Mississippi, the river is speaking of. They called the Mississippi River the Mishpah, and it's telling us that they get that derived from Massa, Moses, and Pawai fathers. So they were called the Mississippi River. It gets its name from the Indians calling that river Father Moses, right? Like he said, and we call it Father of Waters. From there, drop down same page.
Page 3, bottom paragraph.
Yeah,
a relic.
The whole thing.
The following is from Alexander Messenger, published many years ago in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A government officer stationed at Lake Superior at an early day before any white settlers had invaded that part of the country, after becoming acquainted with a number of Indian tribes, found one tribe in possession of a part, Salakia, of a copper tube lightly soldered.
Lake Superior, that's Ohio, right?
That's up there.
But it's up there in the Great Lakes.
Okay. Go ahead. You was a copper tub.
Yeah, I was trying. A government officer stationed at Lake Superior at an early day before any white settlers had invaded that part of the country, after becoming acquainted with the number of Indian tribes, found one tribe in possession of a copper tub tightly soldered. And when asked what it contained, they said they were not able to tell, but they had received it from their ancestors a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
The officer finally prevailed upon them to let him open the article, and when he did so, he found it filled with parchment with inscriptions that he could not read, but by sending the parchment to Washington City, where it was examined by competent Hebrew scholars, it was declared to be a part of the 5 books of Moses.
So for a minute I thought it was talking about the artifact that was found in Ohio, but this one had actual parchment. That's what paper. This had writings of the book of Moses.
Yeah, it says these 5 books of Torah.
Yeah, these Native American Indians was in possession of the some of the 5 books of the Moses, the Torah. And when it says soldered, that's talking about, I believe it was soldered, meaning it was locked nice and tight closed. So they was obviously, they had these books and they were protecting them. The Torah was of value, and they knew they had to protect it and keep it from wear and tear and the environments. And this was found amongst the Native American Indians. And they said at the top, we just read, he said, before any white settlers had even invaded that part of the country. So that X's out any type of doubt or somebody trying to deflect and cause confusion that maybe the white man came and somebody came and planted this here. Nah, it couldn't have been that, because this was before any white settlers had even came and invaded this land. Go ahead, keep going.
Here we have another link in the chain proving that the Hebrews were here many years before the white man came to this continent, and that the present North American Indians are their descendants.
See that? And this is a white man writing this book. Just more proof and evidence who these people were and that they knew exactly who they were. From there, same book, we are now, let me see. Same book. Salakia. You gotta read it? Okay. Well, I'll just read it on the screen then. All right, brother, let's step away. Same book, 10 tribes of Israel. See if the bottom of this says what page. Page 21. Page 21, same book. And it reads, in one of his letters to his friends in England, he says, I found them with like countenances with the Jewish race, and their children of so lively a resemblance to them that a man would think himself in Duke's Place or Burn Street in London when he seeth them. Penn's Works, second volume, 704, year 1683. So that's how old this writing he's referencing was. All the way back in the 1600s, they were saying these things. They wore earrings and nose jewels, bracelets on their arms and legs, rings on their fingers, necklaces made of highly polished shells found in their rivers and on their coats. Their females tied up their hair behind, worked bands around their heads, and ornamented them with shells and feathers, and are fond of strings of beads round several parts of their bodies. They use shells and turkey spurs around the tops of their moccasins to tinkle like little bells as they walk. Isaiah proves this. Isaiah, because we read that in the book of Isaiah. Isaiah proves this to have been the custom of Jewish women or something much like it. In that day, says the prophet, the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet and their calls and their round tires like the moon. Mm-hmm. Also, round tires would be turbans. Later on, we're going to see something else. So I just wanted to take note of that because it's also the men would wear what? Turbans. Where was I at? The headbands. Tires like the moon. It's like the chains and the bracelets and the mufflers, the bonnets and the ornaments of the legs and the headbands and the tablets and the earrings, the rings and the nose jewels. Isaiah 3:18. They religiously observe certain feasts, and feasts very similar to those enjoined on the Hebrews by Moses, as will hereinafter more particularly be shown. In short, many, and indeed it may be said, most of the learned men who did pay any particular attention to these natives of the wilderness at their first coming among them, both English and Spaniards, were struck with their great likeness to the Jews. The Indians in New Jersey, about 1681, are described as persons straight in their limbs beyond the usual portion in most nations, very seldom crooked or deformed. Their features regular, their countenances sometimes fierce, in common rather resembling a Jew than a Christian. Smith's History of New Jersey, page 14. And in reference to their countenances sometimes fierce, let's branch off real quick and go to 1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 8, because this is something that matches what we read about. I believe we're going into Gad and his appearance. So 1 Chronicles, I believe I said 12 and 8, right?
The book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 12, verse 8.
Let me get it. Is that going in the Gad? Mm-hmm. It's almost there. Okay.
The book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 12, verse 8.
Mm-hmm. So this is the book of Chronicles describing the Gadites. Very similar to the way the Native American Indians was described in New Jersey by the author. Go ahead.
The book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 12, verse 8. And the Gadites there separated themselves unto David into the hold, to the wilderness, men of might and men of war, fit for the battle, that could handle shield and buckler, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and were as swift as the roes upon the mountains.
See that? So these the Gadites, they had faces like lions. They had fierce faces and were men of war, just like the Native American Indians that were described in New Jersey.
That means that these men were war ready.
And it even mentioned they were in the wilderness, just like the scripture said of the Gadites.
So they was fit for the battle. It said they could handle shield and buckler. That means they could handle weapons of destruction. They was ready to get down. You know what I mean?
So next we're going to move on to some more archaeology. The Newark Holy Stones found here in the Americas. They're calling them the Newark Holy Stones. I guess that's probably Newark, Ohio, but because this artifact was found in Ohio. This is why I asked, is Lake Superior in Ohio, because this looks like a copper tub similar to what was described in the book we just read. But this, what is that?
Slovakia. Lake Superior is up by like Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. So it was just a whole different artifact. I read elsewhere that we might be reading it today. I can't remember, but they valued one of these books that gives a description of how the natives, they actually valued copper more than gold. So it wouldn't be unusual that they found more than one copper artifact with Hebrew on it if they were valuing copper like that. Here's an image of the whole thing. That's the container and the artifact they found inside. That artifact you see, that's, I believe, supposed to be Moses, and then it's got the Hebrew writing all around the artifact. Anybody online, you can look this up. You can even find videos on YouTube proving that this was found in the Americas, and the scholars have verified that it's authentic, and this is Hebrew that's written all over this artifact.
What was the name of the scholar that the news reporter that got caught? Glenn Beck, wasn't it? Yeah, he got fired for broadcasting this across the news and exposing that this was a Hebrew artifact that was found by actual on Native American reservations and grounds. You know what I mean?
Slovakia. He also, in that news broadcast, he was saying, like, why aren't we learning about this? He's like, why this ain't being taught in the schools? Why we don't know about these artifacts and this history? You know what I mean?
I actually think I can pull that one up. That video is kind of short. We can watch that since you referenced it. Yeah, so we'll watch that real quick then. It's only like a 3-minute video, I believe. So
Right there,
yeah, we can definitely, let me start from the beginning.
Full screen.
Yeah, I will say.
Let me show you one more connection. In 1860, David
My phone is hooked to the internet. Y'all make sure none of y'all devices are hooked to the Wi-Fi, because I think that'd be slowing it up.
In 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that, and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the 10 Commandments. Now, this is another piece. Block Hebrew. They said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismiss the findings. They found it in Israel and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found.
Do y'all know why mainstream archaeologists dismiss this?
Because it's not their language.
Not only that, but the mainstream media is owned by the so-called small hats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they try and denounce who the so-called Hebrews are. You know what I mean? So the small hats trying to withhold this information and don't want it to get out. That's why this man lost his job behind it, because they control the media on a high level.
And also what I was saying too, that the Hebrew they speak in Israel is not the true biblical Hebrew. And that would go against their whole plan of creating that Yiddish language for that land.
And on top of these inscriptions, that's Lashwan Kodash.
You know
what I mean?
Right.
This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee, since it came from Cherokee country. They didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew. So what's going on here? What is that about? Where is that history? I'll show you in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to show you some more things that the Smithsonian, science, government, commerce colluded to erase. By the way, I want to thank the directors of the documentary Lost Civilizations of North America for...
He said they colluded. That means they conspired to erase this information from history. They threw it in the box, they put it away. Yeah, this is the Crafty Council right here.
Mm-hmm. Let's read that.
Psalms 83, son. Nah, he gonna read it.
Whoever gets it first. We'll be here all day waiting for it.
Verse what?
You got
it? Psalm 83.
Start from the top.
Keep ye not
where we at?
Psalms 83.
They need to hear you over there.
Keep ye not thou silence, O Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thy enemies make the tumults,
mm-hmm.
and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Mm-hmm. They got their head real lifted up. They in the clouds. Go ahead.
They high-minded.
Mm-hmm.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
They have done what?
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people,
mm-hmm.
and consulted against thy hidden ones.
Mm-hmm.
They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation.
This is why they hide all this evidence. This is why this dude got fired for this segment. Go ahead.
That the name of Israel may be no more
mm-hmm.
in remembrance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
For they have consulted together with one consent. They are
confederate. That means they're in cahoots. They're together in this thing. Everybody knows except for you. Everybody knows except for you.
Ezekiel, pull Psalms chapter 2.
Can he drop that?
Yeah, he can drop that.
Drop that. Good.
And just read 1 and 2.
Psalms chapter 2.
Yeah, and read it loud so they over there can hear you. And tell them where you at.
The book of Psalms chapter 2.
Can't hear you.
No, you got to speak up. We need to hear you.
The book of Psalms chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing?
So it's a vain thing to try to erase the memory of who the people are. Go ahead.
The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together.
That means they were in collusion against this coming to light. Go ahead.
Against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us.
So they didn't want these people to find out who they was. They tried to break their bands. They're trying to stop them from being strong in their history, strong from reviving who they are, strong from reviving their culture. I mean, that's what I mean.
And cast away their course from us is cast away their control over us. That the Most High is going to give them if they know who they are and they're right with the Most High Yahweh.
I have something.
Go ahead.
The Smithsonian Institute is governed by the Smithsonian Board of Regents, which is made up of the Vice President of the United States, the Chief Justice of the United States, who also serves as the Chancellor, 3 members of the United States Senate, 3 members of the United States House of Representatives, 9 citizen regents, 2 whom must live in Washington, D.C., and the remaining 7 of whom must live in a state.
Smithsonian leaders and organizations.
Yes.
Wow.
So the government is trying to withhold information.
Yeah, they decide on what gets revealed, what gets hidden away in a box in the back, never to be seen by the public.
The Board of Regents meet at least 4 times a year. The board is responsible for the Smithsonian administration, and Secretary of Smithsonian is appointed by the board. The secretary oversees the Smithsonian 19 museums, 21 libraries, the National Zoo, and education and research centers. The Smithsonian is a trust instrumentally of the United States, and it receives about 70% of its funding from the federal government. It also generates an additional funds from private contributors and business revenues.
I wonder who these private contributors are.
All those Confederates. All their Confederates. They all in it together. I'm gonna hit play. You good?
Yeah, like they just showing you that they the Revelation 2 and 9 right there too. Go ahead.
For bringing these stories to my attention, I was blown away. To find more, visit the website lostcivilizationdvd.com. Here's the thing we should be asking ourselves. I don't know the story of these. Do you know that? Did you know that? Do you live in Ohio and did you know that?
Nope.
Why not? Were the American Indians wronged? Yes. Yes. And that's what we focus on in America. Is we were bad to the American. Forget about it. It's in the past. The question should be the ones that the founders asked. Who are they? What knowledge do they have? Can you imagine the difference we would have now if we would put our differences aside and put our past in the past and concentrate on today and say, let's learn from each other. What do you have? What is that? What is that? When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Peter Lilbeck, who is, I've told you before, is one of my favorite authors. He's going to talk to me a little bit about the founders here. And I'm also going to show you some documents that show how that history has been erased.
Yeah, so, they know. And they sweep it all under the rugs. But it's all coming to light, though. It's all coming to light. Yeah.
I was just going to say, they could have easily destroyed that evidence. You know what I'm saying? But the Most High made it to where it will be revealed someday or somebody.
And it's a scripture that says the earth would help the woman being Israel. And that's exactly what's happening. These artifacts coming up, they can't destroy everything because it's like you said, it's the Most High.
So this now advances our understanding of the history of North America by even greater leaps and bounds. I didn't think we...
It's the lock. Next up. So that's North America. They've been found all over the place, even in Puerto Rico. And that's the next thing we're going to go into this article. Wait, I can't click on it. Okay. I can't click on that.
You can click on Blueport. I won't let you.
All right. It's lucky I'll just look it up.
Can't copy that.
It's a quick search. It'll just be quicker to search it again. I don't know why you can't click it, but Hebrew artifacts found in Puerto Rico. So we know of artifacts, and we've examined artifacts that's been found in Tennessee. Bat Creek Stone, we found even Esau just brought out on national TV and got fired for it, bringing out the artifacts they found. That was Tennessee artifacts, but we also looked at the Newark Holy Stones that were found in Ohio. The Los Lunas Stone is in New Mexico. Now we're coming over here to Puerto Rico.
We're also finding out that the vice president and many senators and high officials, that part of their job description is beyond what we thought they were.
Yeah.
Because that's a vice president. It didn't say one vice president, but that's part of the vice president's duty. And all we have to do is look who our vice president is today, and who is he bringing in as vice president tomorrow. Both of them are the same people.
Small heads.
There you go.
So this article is called, this one, there's a few. This one was put together by Nation of Kings and Priests. Shout out to Nation of Kings and Priests out of Florida.
Salakia, you wasn't reading what AI said?
I didn't even read AI because I was looking for this article. I was looking for it because this is exactly what I was trying to click on, but I couldn't. You see something in there you wanted to go?
Nah, I was saying something, but it's important because AI is what they use as data collected. Right. And it's supposed to give you the accurate response. And AI said about what you just said.
Okay.
Articles found in Puerto Rico. Hebrew artifacts.
So to be exact, 800 ancient stones with Hebrew writing in Puerto Rico, authenticated ? And yes, they have since been authenticated. Some small writing. Real quick though, this statue's in Puerto Rico, as you see. Even though they live in hot climate, when wearing a whole bunch of garments, the Puerto Ricans were putting fringes around their calf muscles. See that? Just like we find with the Florida Indians and other Indian tribes that don't really wear a lot of garments, they always still put fringes somewhere and made it a part of their attire. So that statue is in Puerto Rico. Back to the article. You want to read it?
A remnant of ancient stones, 20 of 800, made its way halfway across the world, solving a 3,500-year-old mystery. 3,500-year-old mystery. What these stones whisper about the pre-Columbian indigenous people of the island of Puerto Rico. After rigorous academic testing, anthropology historians, academics, and millions of Puerto Ricans finally have scientific evidence that reveals the language of the stones. Principal Chief Akibana, the brave memorial growing up in the mountains of Puerto Rico, my grandfather told me about some very unique stones which were part of our ancient growing up in the Mount Salakia, our ancient Taino Indian history. These rare stones were in the care of one of our greatest principal chiefs, Cacique Akibana, who, when Columbus stumbled across our Taino people in 1492, was the principal chief of my home island of Boriquén. Knowledge of these stones first came to light when a very sick Taino woman who had tried everything from indigenous herbal remedies to ceremonies lay on her deathbed, compelled to tell a secret her family had carried for generations, that sent runners to find someone in the church who would listen. Why she chose the church, we'll never know. But a monk named Jose Maria Nazario y Cancel came to her bedside. What this elder revealed to this monk changed the historical narrative of our precious island. Monk Jose Maria Nazario.
That's who that picture was. So for everybody to see, this is the monk that she took these artifacts to. Go ahead.
Where we at, right here?
Yeah, that's because of the photo. But yeah, the reading is right under it though.
There in her tiny bohio, thatched roof home, the monk interceded for the old women's healing. Then she told him her family secret, a secret that went back to the time of Cacique Akibana, the principal of chief of Borican, the Taino Indian name for Puerto Rico, which means the house of the great and valiant Lord. Her secret revealed were to find the hidden stash of stones, figurines inscribed with strange symbols and carvings of an ancient people that some called Ibaro, who had lived in the mountains of the island and still have descendants who call themselves by the name this day.
So real quick, Hebrew.
It's Ibaro.
Ibaro?
Yeah.
Hebrew.
Yeah, but it means Hebrew.
Hebrew. Borican.
Borican. Taino even.
Means house of the great and valiant Lord. Where does the Most High dwell? In what people?
Israel.
Not in builds in Israel.
The temple, his people's temple.
But we'd rather use Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
We'd rather. Everybody knows Boricua. But I'd rather call myself Puerto Rican. This actually has meaning. This really means something, and it's honorable. But we'd rather this just show how destroyed we are. We'd rather call our names by the name given to us, which means Puerto Riches. What are the riches? We are.
Hold on, I got a precept, and this just to prove that the so-called Tainos are descended from the Hebrews. All right, this is the book of Numbers, chapter 26, verse 35. And these are the sons of Ephraim, after their families of Shuthelah, the family of the Shuthelalites, of Becher, the family of the Becherites, of Tahan, the family of the Tahanites. The word Taino is a Latin derivative of the word Tahanite, which you see right there in the scriptures. So that's the Latin word right there, Tainos, for Tahanites. That proves that they are a clan of the tribe of Ephraim in the scriptures.
That's right. Back to the reading. So, Boriquin, house of the great Lord. Yahweh. Hebrew, Taino, Latin for Tahinite. Hebrew, 800 Hebrew stones, all the evidence. Man, this is evidence after evidence after evidence. They convicted R. Kelly on less evidence.
We don't have the artifact. I'm gonna try to find it, but somewhere on the Facebook page, Rise of the Chosen, they even had coins, and it say on the coins Eber, going back to Eber, which was who kept the language during the time of Babel, the descendants of the Hebrews.
Yeah, where Hebrew comes
from.
Yeah,
where Hebrew comes from.
Good. All right, let's pick back up. Right there.
Nazaria had been educated at the University of Salamanca. His studies had included ancient languages, and he was amazed at what he saw after comparing the writing of these stones to others from around the world. He came to his conclusion that this writing was a form of ancient Hebrew.
Ancient what?
Ancient Hebrew. Because of his religious background, this fueled the possibility that the remnant of the lost tribes of Israel had settled on this island.
And this was Nazario. That's that monk, right? Nazario was the monk. The monk, he verified these stones are written in Hebrew. Go ahead. We're going to read down to Yah, and then we're going to exit out the article. Everybody, If you want to finish the article, you can find it online. Everybody here in the room, if you want, I can post it, send it. But it's a kind of a long article. We can't really read through the whole thing. So let's keep reading from where you're at down to, we're going to stop at His Sacred Name, Yah.
In 1893, Nazario wrote a short article titled Escritura Aborigen de Caribe, Aboriginal Writing of the Carib, in which he explained his interpretations of these carvings. After a thorough analysis of the stones and their inscriptions, he dismissed an Arawak Taino language origin, and by 1897, he concluded that the writings were more reminiscent of ancient Hebrew, comparing this discovery with the spoken Taino language of his day.
Mm-hmm.
So they were speaking the Taino language when this Spaniard came to the language. They was not speaking Spanish. They were speaking a Taino language that was comparative to a Hebrew language.
But he's even saying with that, because we already know over time the language it kind of shapes, it reshapes. But even these stones, he said they wasn't even that, present day reshaping. They were more ancient Hebrew.
Nazario discerned words in the Taino Arawak language that were Semitic in origin and pronunciation. One example is the Taino name for the supreme spirit of spirits, Yah.
See that? Everybody got Yah. The North American Indians, hallelujah, Yah. Kumbaya. These Tainos calling the Most High God Yah. Go ahead.
By comparison, the power of the monotheistic Hebrew culture is known by the abbreviated form of his sacred name, Yah.
See that? So without a doubt, all these Indians so hard for this whole side of the map, they knew, and they were calling these people Israelites. From there, drop that article. Like I said, you can find this article online. Everybody in the class, if you want me to send it to you, anybody here, I can send it to you. Is Hebrew stones found in Puerto Rico. Moving on, remember we talked about the turbans. So this brother here is a Seminole Indian, or a Cherokee. Salaki, this is a Cherokee.
No,
it's coming off.
There's
a delay. And actually, that might be paused.
No, it's moving. It's just delayed. It's delayed.
But
no, it's moving.
Yeah, but hey, when he comes in, have him fast forward it though, because I'm on there and
no, it's there. It's slow. That's good.
No, this was already on. I'm saying it's behind even more than our feed. But this brother up here on the screen is a Cherokee war chief. And the brother on the left is another Cherokee or Seminole. And this is just going to go into a little bit of the attire of these Indians in the Southeast America. The turban was a style of head covering favored by many of the Southeast Indian tribes who were located in the states of Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. So see, we find it being a custom of us in the Bible wearing turbans. But these Native American Indians in these states, in this location, they like to wear turbans to go along with all the other customs and evidences of them being Israelites. They just so happen to also love wearing fringes and turbans. Nael, if you could get the remote and make sure that live is fast forward as far as it can go, because it's right here. Oh yeah, it's right. Because I got on my phone and the lag is not that bad. It's worse on the TV.
It's not on live. Go scroll down, do it again. All right, it's on live now. When you see the red next to the live, it wasn't red, it was white.
Yeah. All right, so the next artifact. You got a preset?
I got a preset.
Is it a quick one or
yes,
should I go
it's
there?
A quick one.
All right, go ahead.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 29, verse 6. And I'm going to read it in the King James Version, and then I'm going to read it in the English Standard Version, all right? So in the King James Version, it reads, "And thou shalt put a mitre upon his head, and put the holy crown upon the mitre."
And a mitre is a turban.
Yeah,
turban,
that's what I'm
same
getting.
thing.
That's what I'm getting in
Okay.
another language.
Blocky.
In the English Standard Version, it says, and you shall set the turban on his head, and put the holy crown on the turban." You know what I mean? So that establishes that the mitre is our wear, and it's a holy turban that was worn that represents our priesthood.
Mm-hmm. And this is a war chief right here.
Huh.
So that's who would be wearing that crown and being distinguished like that. Next artifact. This is a painting you will find in Peru of when they came over, like the most recent 15 emperors, maybe a little more. But this painting is found in Peru. Read about it a little bit. It's an interesting painting because it's going to be more archaeological evidence showing this painting is of Hebrews. So this painting is in the Larco Museum in Lima, Peru. This painting depicts the Inca emperors and the subsequent European emperors of the Inca. It begins with, so it's got the actual Inca emperors and then the Europeans that came and took their spots in conquering them. All these people are on this painting. It begins with Manco Capac, the legendary first Sapa Inca, top left side, and his sister Mama Huaco, top right side. This painting also depicts Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. This class, we're not going to scan in on it, but in this painting, you actually zoom into the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V that is speaking of, and it's a black man without a doubt. He ain't even light skinned. He's very richly dark brown. As the first European emperor of the Inca, the rest were Spanish kings. And you'll see after Charles, all these Spanish kings, now they became white. So Charles may be the last, black ruling emperor in Spain, probably. The painting can be dated circa 1800 because the last two entries are Carlos III Charles III as the 24th Inca emperor and his son Carlos IV Charles IV. House of Bourbon as the 25th Inca emperor. Charles IV reigned as king of Spain from December 14th, 1788 to March 19th, 1808. So that's how they're doing the dating of the painting by the last king that's on it. Closer up. What do you got?
I just want to lay me back off what you're saying. Even though he's bringing out the pictures from the ancient Peruvians saying that they are Israelites, even to this day, is practicing the Israelites in the mountains of Peru called Los Israelitas. And they're wearing fringes and stuff to this day. You can look it up on your phone and stuff, but they have not had any contact with any camp or Israelite organization. And they're wearing fringes out there in the mountains of Peru, untouched, unscathed, and preserving the culture until this day. You know what I mean? And proclaiming themselves to be the lost tribes of Israel. You know what I mean? So y'all can look that up. If I knew he was going to go here, I would have sent that to him because I had this on my phone for a minute. I also posted, like I said, it's in the group, The Rise of the Chosen on Facebook. But if you can look it up, even on the Rise of the Chosen group, it's way more information than what I have on my phone. You can go on that page and you can put Peruvian Israelites and you'll find the information there.
But look, you still send it to me because it can go on here. We can make this a printout, so we could get all the stuff that ain't on here. We can add it and put it in the printout. So definitely send me that.
And even just Googling, you can see that some of these people are very, very dark skinned people. You know what I mean? They don't look like the so-called Spaniards. They look close to us. Some of them, their hair grades, they range from very, very thick to stringy hair, but they keeping the practices in Peru.
But that was the look of the Native Americans.
Yeah.
It was all different hair textures.
Yeah.
And it was all different shades of brown, light to dark, the same way we teach the Israelites are. All different shades, light to dark, all different hair types, phenotypes. Because they've been untouched in the mountains, but before the northern tribes came over here, they had already mixed themselves amongst the nations.
That's true.
So they came over here with different phenotypes,
and we can get that too,
and skin tones.
You ain't never go to that church. Is it correct?
No, we never got to go there.
Not yet.
Yeah.
We have to look into it, definitely. I have thought about that. I'd be riding Maryland Ave. I'd be trying to figure out where it is, but
right at the bottom, one corner.
All right, we'll have to set it up and go there.
All across the wall, they definitely keep the Sabbath, all that.
So I zoomed in on some of these Inca kings, and as you see, they're all dressed like a king would, got their crowns, their sepulchres, but as you see on their garments across the chest, every king has fringes on his outer garment that he wears on top. Every single one of them, decked out as they are, they got them fringes. Every one, each row. You see it right there. All of them got right. That's a good catch. They all got blue in there. Got the blue in there. Watch this. The seventh one. Take note of the seventh Inca king on this painting. Inca king number 7. His name is Yahwar. Yahuar. If you know anything about the ancient languages, you would be pronounced wa, not u. Yahwar. Yahwar. I don't know what that name means, but it's no coincidence that all these different Native American tribes was referencing Yah, and this 7th Inca king that has fringes on, and they've been linked to the Israelites, and his name is Yah. Who was calling the Most High God Yah? The Israelites. Short for Yahweh. You can't make this stuff up. Undisputable evidence. The people of the children of Israel.
They also have their own Facebook page, and it reads Juventud Israelita de Nuevo Pacto. And the roughly translated to my understanding, that means Warriors of Israel, New Pact, the New Pact, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I mean. But if you go on Facebook, you can find their own page, and they even their women got hair wraps too, which is our culture. Yeah, I mean, they preserving their culture. Their women's got the hair wraps and everything too. Yeah, I mean, and they out in the mountains of Peru.
So I got surge up there.
Go ahead.
The address is Isaiah 45:4.
Go ahead, bring it up.
For Jacob, my servant's sake, and in Israel, my elect, I have called thee by my name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. So these people are called by the Most High.
Yes, absolutely.
The Lord has surnamed them, right?
All praise.
In the time of forgetting.
Jeremiah
14:2.
Yep.
Yes, good precept.
That's beautiful.
Moving on from there. Now we're going to go into this book called The History of Hernando de Soto in Florida, written by Bernard Schitt. First excerpt we're going to get out of this book, it's speaking to the voyage of Francisco Hernandez de Corva to Yucatan. So Yucatan is in that area of northern South America, Gulf of Mexico Bay, Caribbean islands area, Venezuela, all that. That's the Yucatan. First thing it says, when they brought forth the treasures and curiosities they had collected on their voyage and related what they had discovered, these became the topics of common conversation throughout the islands of St. Domingo and Cuba. Indeed, the same thereof even reached Spain. There it was said that none of the countries which had hitherto been discovered were as rich as this, and in none had there been found houses built of stone. The earthen gods which they brought from these countries, it was said, were the remains of the ancient heathen times. Others again went so far as to affirm that the inhabitants of these countries were descendants of the Jews whom Titus and Vespasian had driven from Jerusalem, who had been shipwrecked off this coast. Peru was then unknown and not discovered until the year 1527. So this is before they even discovered the Peru, where the Inca kingdom is. They said that the gods that they had, these gods that they had, brought them back to being descendants of the Jews. They were attaching whatever idols, gods they had, the same idol gods that ancient Jews would have with them. These Indians at the Yucatan had with them. When you compare the righteous customs they keep and the wicked idolatrous things that came over, is all links back to Israel, the good and the bad. What you got? Oh, Khan. Yeah, we're gonna definitely make it of importance to go visit. But so this guy's letting us know that even their idolatrous customs matched up with the idolatrous customs that we have when we go off way back in Israel. Moving on from there, same book. Go ahead.
Their food and pulse, as with other tribes.
Their food is post. Who is famous for eating post?
Nobody.
Daniel.
Vegetarian.
Like vegetarian soup or whatever. Yep. Daniel is famous for eating post instead of eating the Babylonian king's meat. These Indians, their food was post. Go ahead.
Their food is pulse, as with other tribes, which is here better than elsewhere, and more carefully cultivated. In the time of sowing, they are governed by the moon.
Who's governed by the moon? But the Aztecs, but who else? Israel, who was given the laws of God and given the knowledge of the moon being for the signs of times and seasons. Go ahead.
In the time of sowing, they are governed by the moon, the sprouting of grain, and many other ancient usages. They live by hunting and fishing, and they are long-lived. If they fall sick, they cure themselves with medicine without medicine, by the heat of fire, and death at last comes from extreme old age. We judge them to be very affectionate and charitable towards their relatives, making loud lamentations in their adversity, and in their misery calling to mind all their good fortune.
But they make loud lamentation. Israelites was known for lamenting over their dead. The one scripture even says, call the women that are skilled in weeping, paraphrasing. Khan, go ahead.
At their departure out of life, their relations mutually join. The relations mutually join in weeping, mingle with singing for a long time.
So they keep everything they do is you're finding similarities from what they're keeping as customs to the Bible, to the scriptures, to the Israelites. Same book. Speaking of the Mojaves,
the Mojaves, Kemachives, the Yumas, the Kukans, and the Kakupas, these Indians, particularly those of the Pueblos of New Mexico,
so the New Mexican natives, go ahead,
are generally remarkable for their sobriety and industry, the chastity of the women, the conjugal fidelity of both sexes, the integrity of manners, and their honesty in the ordinary transactions of social life.
Hold on, let's get some commandments with what you just read. Their sobriety and industry, their chastity of women, the conjugal fidelity of both sexes. What is that ringing a bell for anybody? The chastity of women, conjugal fidelity of both sexes, their integrity of manners. This sounds like the Ten Commandments. This sounds like they're keeping the laws of God.
Not wanting your neighbor's wife, Yeah, I mean, a woman keeping her virginity and staying chaste, being honest. Yeah, I mean, not bearing false witnesses. These are part of their culture.
This is New Mexico. What was found in New Mexico?
Say it again.
Which has what on it?
The Ten Commandments.
10 Commandments in ancient Paleo Hebrew.
Come.
Go ahead.
If these half-civilized populations are inferior to the ancient Mexicans in the development of the intellectual faculties, they are decidedly superior to them in the exercise of the moral ones.
Which is what is the laws of God? The moral standard of living. Romans 2:14-15.
The book of Romans, chapter 2, 14-15. For when the Gentiles which have not the law do by nature the things contained in the law, these having not the law are a law unto themselves, which show the works of the law written in their hearts. Their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the meanwhile accusing one another.
So they came over here with what? The intentions of keeping the law. And over time they went off just like we always go off, but you still found everywhere remnants of this, the law being written in their hearts, passed down from generation to generation. And we already know these Gentiles that it's speaking of in Romans 2 are what? The lost Israelites. Moving on. Similarities in Egypt and Inca, pre-Inca. What similarity? Pyramids. The Americas have numerous pyramids. I think America is more known for pyramids than Egypt, but Egypt is more popular. People think of Egypt when they think of the pyramids, but America had more pyramids. Right.
It also has the biggest pyramid.
And the biggest pyramid. Okay.
That's for the three major ones that are in Egypt.
Mm-hmm. What does this mean? Does this mean America's Egypt? Hell no. Some will run with that. What it does mean, though, is these people were in this place at some point in time and learned something and brought it over here. That's what it means. We also are going to see in scriptures that the scriptures don't tell us that we built the pyramids in Egypt, but they do tell us that we built pyramids afterwards. We're going to go there. So this is a pyramid found here in the Americas. There's more. I'm not going to show all the pyramids because, like you said, there's hundreds. But this is what you find in the Americas. Same as back in Egypt, you find it here in the Americas. History of Hernando. Back in the same book, History of Hernando de Soto in Florida. Excerpt from page 11 to 12. You want me to read it?
No, I got it.
All right. Start from the top.
From the island of Cozumel, Grijalva continued his voyage the same route that Cordova had taken, and after 8 days, sail arrived off the coast of Capitune. Mm-hmm. The next place he came to was Boca de Timonios, the western limit of Cordoba's voyage, sailing along the coast by day and lying to by night. On account of the shallows and rocks, and occasionally landing, Grijalva arrived at an island about 2 miles from the continent, where they found a temple of which stood.
Where they found a temple.
Where they found a temple. On which stood the great and abominable-looking god Tetzalpuca, surrounded by 4 Indian priests dressed in wide black cloaks and with flying hair, who had the very day sacrificed 2 boys whose bleeding hearts they had offered to the horrible idol. Upon inquiry, they learned that this sacrifice had been ordered by the people of Kalua.
Okay, drop that part. Now read this. Explaining. This is explaining the temple.
Teocalli, what Diaz here called the temple was
truncated
pyramidal structure called by the Mexicans.
So it was a pyramid, and it was called what?
Teocalli, which word means house of God. Teo, God, Cali, house.
So they had temples, and they were making these temples were on pyramids, and they were calling their temples the house of God. Next excerpt.
In the neighborhood, Sepiola was Pupilan's town and had several tecalis and truncated pyramidal structures.
So their pyramids, they were dedicating to the Most High God. This is how they were building temples to God.
Which were rather altars than temples, dedicated to the idols of Indian faith and worship. These structures were in different places, constructed of different materials, stone, brick of earth.
That's good.
It's solid.
That's good. And he's just going. We already saw the picture, so he's going to describe how the temple was of stone, had the steps going up to it. At top, that was where your temple was at, and it was more like a place to sacrifice humans. Because what we do over time, we became idolaters again and sacrificed our own people. Now I'm gonna go to the scripture showing that we had the knowledge of building temples, and one of our forefathers is written as building temples. And that would be Simon. First Maccabees chapter 13, verse 27.
The book of First Maccabees chapter 13, verse 27. Simon also built a monument upon the sepulchre of his father and his brethren, and raised it aloft to the site with hewn stones behind and before. Moreover, he set up 7 pyramids, one against another.
This is Simon. This is the brother of Judas Maccabees. Everybody definitely knows that name. Judas died. His brothers started to take over, one of them being Simon. Some people celebrate the day of Simon, that brother there. Simon went around and he built 7 pyramids, one against another. Go ahead.
And in these he made cunning devices like him. Moreover, he set up 7 pyramids, one against another, for his father and his mother and his 4 brethren. And these he made cunning devices, about the which he set great pillars. And upon the pillars he made all of their armor for a perpetual memory, and by the armor ships carved, that they might be seen of all that sail on the sea.
So he was copying what he learned where? In Egypt. Because when they went and they went into all the pyramids, what they find? They found what? They were like tombs, right? And they found riches and all types of things. Simon took that technology and he did the same thing. The northern tribes came over here and they did the same thing, but they made their pyramids temples. Move from there. Let's go into the book, The Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. And this excerpt is this excerpt here in the book, The Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, is an account that was mentioned in the book we read last week. The author, remember, he had mentioned a story. I don't know if you guys remember, but the author of the book we read last week, the one written in, Old English, he had referenced getting information from Manasseh ben Israel. This is going a detailed account of information that Manasseh ben Israel received from one of the small hats that was traveling over here to the Americas and finding what he described as descendants of the lost tribes of the children of Israel. So that's what we're reading here in the book, The Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders. And we're just going to read from the top and read through until we're done. So I'll just you just keep reading until I be like, that's all I got.
Lost Tribes in Promised Land, page 30. A lost tribe discovered in New York. In September 1644, a Portuguese Marano named Antonio de Montesinos arrived in Amsterdam after having lived for some years in South America and proceeded to tell the leaders of the recently established Jewish community their story that caused them to think of him as a latter-day Eldad, the Danite. 2.5 years before, he told them while traveling in the wild mountains of Quito, he had heard some of his Indian guides remark that the natives of that country deserved all the suffering they had undergone at the hands of the Spaniards. When he asked them to explain why they thought such a thing, they had replied mysteriously that it was because we so badly treated a holy people, the greatest in the world. Nothing more had been offered by them of this point. But later in that same conversation, Francisco, one of the Indian guides, had declared that his countrymen would be avenged upon the Spaniards in that time anyway, by means of a people now hidden. The two references apparently were to the same people, but Montesinos...
Real quick, hold on. So there's a doctrine out there of somebody that's a denier of the northern tribes being the Native Americans that takes this excerpt and he'll say, see, the one he's saying that we got punished for doing harm to holy people, and see, they're not actually the Israelites, they're heathens, and the reason they're getting killed by the Spaniards is because they had harmed the Israelites. No, he that brother that's got that out there, if you ever come across it, he didn't read all the way down. Even though he said that, he's talking about the same people. What do you find in Israelite history? You find us doing what? Destroying the prophets. You find wicked Israelites destroying the holy people, those that are still maintaining and keeping the standards, laws, commandments of the Most High God. That's all he's describing here. I got to put that out there because I know that it's a doctrine that's out there. Another part of Negro-only rhetoric. Con? All right. It's like it. Go ahead.
Montesinos, not seeing their full meaning in that moment, had put the whole matter out of mind for the time being. Upon his return to Cartagena, the Judaizing Montesinos had found himself accused by the Inquisition and put in prison. Praying for salvation in his cell one day, he was reciting what was by then a standard formula among New World Maranos. Blessed be the name of Yahweh, who has not made me an idolater, a barbarian, a Negro, an Indian. When suddenly he stopped those Indians, he told himself...
Hold on. He stopped, and now it's parentheses. He's saying something.
Those Indians, he told himself, they are Hebrew.
Now, you see how he didn't say the Negroes. Why is that? I'm going to tell you why. He's a small hat. They had just stole that identity from the Negro Jews in Spain. Remember, they got put out as Jews, and then they got termed as just Negroes, while the small hats took on the what?
The
identity. So, go ahead.
Pondering his thought indiscreetly, and yet with growing conviction, he resolved that if he ever was released, he would seek out the Indian Francisco and try to learn the truth. Montesinos' story unclear as to the circumstances of his incarceration.
Real quick, so just to explain back further what I was explaining earlier, this Francisco was an Indian. Indians don't name themselves Francisco. So the Israelites that did harm to a holy people were the Israelites that did what? The same thing they did in the Maccabees, had went to the heathen and fought against their own people. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Spaniard name.
Yeah, go ahead.
Montesinos' story unclear as to the circumstances of his incarceration is equally unclear as to those of his release. But released he was, and he immediately went to Francisco, revealing himself as a Jew. Montesinos proclaimed his conviction that Francisco's hidden people were of the same race as he. Would Francisco lead him to them? The two men were soon back in the rugged mountains in which Francisco had made his initial revelation, marching relentlessly for a week before they finally came to a halt. It was a Saturday. Montesinos makes a point of telling us, and they had come to the river larger than Diero. Are they echoes of Sabatian in all of this? Here Francisco announced is where your brothers will be seen, waving a banner high in the air. The Indian guide soon was greeted by a puff of smoke far beyond the other bank of the river. In response to his signal, the two men waited. Eventually, a canoe appeared bearing their men and a woman, all of them Indians, to the place where Francisco and Montesinos were standing at the water's edge. The woman got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montesinos could not understand, although he could perceive that he was being identified in the conversation. She then turned to her male companions to explain the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montesinos, and his utter astonishment said, Shema Israel, Adonai Elihu, Adonai Ehad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. They had recited in Hebrew the fundamental creed of Judaism.
Hold up. What's going on here? Why would they be doing this if they wasn't Israelites? I'm gonna give you a scoffer argument though. It's really Shema Yasha'Allah Yahweh Elohim Yahweh Akkad. Why are they saying Adonai if the heathen say Adonai, or what they say, the name?
Yeah.
If this was a real account, they would have said Yahweh. Amos 6:10. This here even shows even more that this is the northern kingdom, tribes of Israel. The fact that they read them Hebrew and they replaced Yahweh with Adonai. Amos 6:10. Somebody read that when you got it. Let me get there too. Y'all there? Start at 9 to 11. Right there. You there?
Come on.
All right, bring it
like
up.
a lion.
Let us know where you're at. Let us know the address and then bring it up. Come on.
Amos chapter 6, verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
And it shall come to pass, if there remain 10 men in one house, that they shall die.
Go ahead.
And a man's uncle shall take him up, and he that burneth him, to bring out the bones out of the house, and shall say unto him, that is by the sides of the house, is there yet any with thee? And he shall say, no.
Mm-hmm.
Then
here's the point coming up right here. Go ahead.
Then shall say he, hold thy tongue,
mm-hmm.
for we may not mention the name of Yahweh.
We may what?
We shall not mention.
We may not
mention.
Make mention.
make mention of the name of Yahweh.
We can't make mention of the name Yahweh no more. Go ahead.
For behold, the Lord commandeth, and he will smite the great house with breaches, and the little house with clefts.
With clefts, Khan, you can drop that. So now go back to the reading, and they said they met this small hat who had the identity of a Jew, and they greeted him with Shema Yasharallah, or Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ahad. Instead, Shema Yasharallah Yahweh, Alahai Yahweh Akkad. See that?
Yeah, he said it. He said it with his language. He didn't say it the way that they addressed him. He didn't say it because they say the name.
But look, Elohino ain't even how the small hats pronounce it. So regardless, it was skewed. But we already established that Israel was skewing the language all the way back in Judges. So this was Hebrew, and why they didn't say Yahweh? We just read it. Khan? Go ahead.
Then they had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism. A brief conversation then ensued in their common ancestral tongue, according to Matzinos, whose fluency in it is almost as perplexing to the reader of his narrative as it that of his three mysteries, new companions. They told him that they were themselves of the tribe of Reuben, and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby.
For time's sake, I was going to read through. Now I'll go to the next highlighted part. For time's sake.
Lost tribe of discovery in New York,
page 365.
Page 365. Only the sorcerers of the tribe had perceived that they were special people and had given warning that they should be left alone. Yahweh of these children of Israel and the true power
is the true
power. They had said, and everything inscribed on their tablets is true. At the end of days, they will be lords of all the nations of earth.
And who is that? Israel.
That's right.
Israel. Khan.
Wake them up.
Next next page, the next highlighted parts. We're just doing the highlighted part.
The idea now being popularized by Manasseh ben Israel that the lost tribes were to be found in the New World, among other places.
Like this was a prominent small hat during this time, and he's verifying these cats over there in the New World are definitely of the lost tribes of the children of Israel.
You can get James 1-1.
Drop down. We can actually drop the rest of that and move on to the next. If you got scripture, we can bring it out.
Yeah, go ahead. James 1-1. That's all.
Move on to the next thing. All this stuff, like
yeah. Go ahead, read it.
Where we going?
James 1-1.
This thing alone.
The book of James, chapter 1-1.
Come on.
James, a servant of God and of the Lord, Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad.
Where they at?
Which are
you said it right.
Which are scattered abroad.
That means they scatter outside of one's country. And we just read the idea now being popularized by Manasseh ben Israel that the lost tribes were to be found in the New World among other places. So they were going to be scattered worldwide, even in the New World.
We're in the United States, considered the New World. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Page 187.
The book of the
same book, Lost Tribes, Promised Land.
Lost Tribes of Promised Land.
Page 187.
Let's see, 131.
No, I was saying go to 187.
Okay. Page 187.
Read the highlight.
For increasing frequency and conviction, Duran came to see elements of Judaic character in the old Aztec religion. At first, this tendency appears only as a fervent search for Jewish analogies provoked by Aztec customs, such as the eating of only unleavened bread on certain days of the year, the prohibition of drinking liquids after the eating of certain ritual foods, and the use of baths for purification in time.
So he's saying, at first it seemed like because they got similarities, we're really just kind of fervently searching for these Jewish analogies. Like it's not there, it's just some coincidences, and now now we're trying to find any little thing at first. Go ahead.
This begins
in time.
Now
in time.
This begins to seem to Duran like overwhelming evidence that the Indians are indeed descended from the lost tribes of Israel.
Over time, it's like, nah, this ain't us trying to search and, every little thing. No, it's overwhelming over time. Like, it's without a doubt. Go ahead.
And he opens his last and most important work, The History of the Indies of New Spain, with the unqualified assertion.
And this is the author calling that. The author of this book, he's a doubter of this truth. But of course, you know why? I believe he's a small hat. So go figure. But he's definitely an Edomite. So he's a hater. Go ahead.
To this effect, in the way even certain fundamental legends can be explained, such as the one that Montezuma presented to Cortez. The departure of the great lord of antiquity now seems to Duran to be a memory of Moses.
So the stories Montezuma was giving the conquerors seemed like he was giving stories of memories of Moses. The legends, the teachings of Moses being passed down all the way down to Montezuma and the Aztecs. We dealt with that a little bit last week. Go ahead.
As for the abject condition of the Indian, it can now be accounted for in the classic way. This is God's punishment, once again, wrought upon the Jewish people for their sins.
And I believe we can go into the next segment, which is just that. Matching the punishments of God to the Israelites to the Native Americans. Proof that Native Americans are Israelites by biblical prophecy and the punishments of God.
Go ahead.
Psalm 147, 19.
Go ahead. When y'all get it, y'all got turtle fingers. Come on, man.
Psalms what?
Get some rabbit in the hair fingers.
170?
147 and 8 and it's like in 19. 147 and 19.
The book of Psalms, chapter 147, verse 19.
Mm-hmm.
He sueth his sword unto Jacob.
Show it.
Oh, show it.
And it's not sword, his word.
Oh, I said.
Come on, keep going. It's all right.
He showeth his sword unto Jacob.
No, his word. Keep going.
His word unto Jacob.
Yep. Keep going.
His statutes and his judgments.
His judgments. Israel. What's the judgment? Punishments. Go ahead.
He hath not dealt so with any nation.
No other. Only the Israelites are going to match these punishments and judgments. Only the Israelites are going to have these customs a million miles away in a whole new world without the rest of civilization. Only the Israelites are going to have that. Go ahead.
And as for his judgments, they have not known.
The other nations haven't known these judgments. The other nations haven't received these punishments. Go ahead.
Praise ye the Lord.
Praise ye Yahweh. Kind. From there, Hosea 1:1. If we could, I got a lot. I got a lot. What is it though? Is it a quick one?
Yes, Psalms 78, 5 and 6.
Can you read it real quick out loud?
He established the testimony in Jacob,
appointed
a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children.
And this was how did it get all the way down to these customs and laws being in the Native Americans' culture? How did that happen? Because he appointed it in Jacob, and it was passed down to children, and even though it got skewed a little and we went off, that's something we always did. But the fact it was there is why, because it was established in Jacob, like you brought out. From there, Hosea 1:1 to 9. Now let Yak and I get this. This is part of the class. Y'all stand by though for extra.
The book of Hosea, chapter 1, verse 1. The word of Yahweh that came unto Hosea, the son of Beeri.
And we read last week, but we're going to, read it again for what we're going into. Go ahead.
In the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. The beginning of the word of Yahweh by Hosea. And Yahweh said to Hosea, go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms, and children of whoredoms, for the land have committed great whoredom, departing from Yahweh. Mm-hmm. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diabalaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And Yahweh said unto him, call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. Mm-hmm. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel, and she conceived again and bare a daughter. And Yahweh said unto him, call her name Lo-Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the power of their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. Now, when she had weaned Lo-Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Mm-hmm. Then said Yahweh, call his name Lo-Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God.
And this is when the northern tribes of Israel became the lost tribes of Israel. Back to 2 Ezra 13, 39, 46. Another one we read last week, but we're going to do it again. Go ahead.
And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea, the king, whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. Mm-hmm. And he carried them over the waters. And so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over.
Read.
For through the country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And the same region is called Arzureth. Mm-hmm. Then dwelt they there until the latter time.
So Ezra's prophesied they would be in this land that never man dwelt, the quote-unquote new world, until the latter time, the last days. Go ahead.
And now when they shall begin to come.
And how begin to come? By, as the scriptures say, first realizing who they are and coming back to the Most High God. Back to Hosea chapter 1, verse 10 to 11.
The book of Hosea, chapter 1, verse 10 and 11. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them.
I'm Salagi, but it just said they shall be, and they shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. Keep that in mind. Go ahead from wherever you left off.
And where we say you are not my people, mm-hmm. there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head.
Gathered together how and appoint themselves one head. They be where? In the same land, same impression. Go ahead.
One head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel.
Today we're dealing with the children of Israel, the northern kingdom. I want to go back in the book a short account of the destruction of the Indies, dealing with that prophecy. Though they be cut off, not my people, they will be as the sand of the sea and without number.
The first attempt was on the Spanish island.
Go ahead and start from the beginning. The highlighted parts are the important parts, but we're going to read from the top until this. We're going to read from America, where it says starts America, down to the second highlighted part.
Bartolome de las Casas, a short account of the destruction of the Indies, the cruelties of the Spaniards committed in America.
Mm-hmm.
America was discovered and found in 1492, resulting with it being inhabited by the Spaniards, with a multitude of them traveling there from Spain during the next 49 years.
Mm-hmm. Read.
The first attempt was on the Spanish island, which was a most fertile soil and at present was a great reputation for its spacious and length, containing a perimeter 600 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It's surrounded by the innumerable number of the islands, which were found well inhabited by natives and foreigners, that there isn't a region in the universe with so many people, but the main land, which is 250 miles north of the island.
All right,
extends.
hold up. So back to the point. He said that there isn't a region in the universe with so many people. This is before even seeing the continent. Just on the islands alone. Coming from Europe. Coming from the so-called known world with all the different peoples in the world. He said that there isn't a region in the universe with so many people. Going back to the scriptures, it said they be cut off. The other scriptures will be in the land never man dwelt, new world, and they would be without number. Who else could this be talking about? They're matching up prophecy. Go ahead.
It's Slovakia. But the mainland, which is 250 miles north of the island, extends itself to over 10,000 miles in length near the seashore. Some islands are already discovered and more will be found in the process of time.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people inhabiting these countries make it seem as it is omnipotent.
As if the omnipotent, go ahead.
As if the omnipotent power was assembled and concocted the major part of mankind in this part of the world.
So that's like saying the sea. That's like without number. From there, back in the book we read last week, the Jews in America were possibilities.
Yeah, you got that.
I got it. But listen, check this out. He's gonna be direct in the same things we teach today. This so-called white man, Thomas Thorogood, this English man, writing about the Indians over here being the Jews, the same way we talk about the curses of Deuteronomy 28. Oh, even they was linking it up with the curses of Deuteronomy 28 back then. So contrary to the popular belief amongst Edomites today, or the popular lie, that's just whatever. What they come up with? What they say? That's not y'all. These curses ain't got nothing to do with y'all. Blah blah. Yeah, back in the 1600s, they was speaking a different song. They was talking about something else. They was talking the same thing we was. The curses of Deuteronomy, linking these people to Israelites. So Jews in America and possibilities thereof, chapter 8, the sixth conjecture. The Americans' calamities are suitable to those plagues threatened to the Jews. Deuteronomy 28. So we ain't so crazy now, is we? A white man saying it. So you know it got to be true.
Oh, it just gotta be true.
It's gotta be true.
It comes
now.
from a friendly neighborhood.
It's gotta be true. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, check it out. Check it out. Such a comment upon that terrible scripture is not anywhere to be found, as among the Indians. By this also it will appear probable that they be Jews. And here 3 things shall be touched upon. The Jews were very sinful people. The Indians were and are transcendent sufferers. In that way, literally, as was threatened to the Jews. Moving on, Deuteronomy chapter 28. Let's go verse 1 and 2, and then 15.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1 and 2. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt not hearken diligently unto...
Remember, 1 and 2. This is the...
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that Yahweh thy power will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Mm-hmm. And these blessings shall come, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So the classic. If we didn't keep the commandments, the Israelites didn't keep the commandments, they would suffer curses, punishments that would overtake them. From there, go to Hosea chapter 8, verse 1 to 3.
The book of Hosea, chapter 8, verse 1 and 3. Set the trumpet to thy mouth. He shall come as an eagle against the house of Yahweh, because they have transgressed my covenant and trespassed against my law.
And the Spaniards, the Caucasians came over here under what banner? The banner of the eagle. Go ahead.
Israel shall cry unto me, my power, we know thee. Israel has cast off the thing that is good. The enemy shall pursue him.
So over here, through the course of time, the Native American Indians started to veer off from the intents they came over here with, and to do what? To do much evil and idolatry, and by that suffer punishments of what we just read, being one. And we're going to see more that link them with the Bible prophecy and the punishments that they went through here in the Americas. Moving on, let's go to the book of Hosea, same chapter, drop down to verse 13. And as you see, the image you see on the screen is what? It's a drawing that one of the Spaniards did of what he saw over here. It's one of those temples, just like we saw earlier, with the steps going up and the temple up top. And what would they do? They would do human sacrifices at the door of this temple. This is a photo of the Aztecs that we're looking at here, doing human sacrifice. Last week we talked about, it was the same image, how these priests doing the sacrifice were even still wearing fringes. Read Hosea 8:13.
The book of Hosea, chapter 8, verse 13.
This was prophesied in Hosea. Go ahead.
They sacrifice flesh for the sacrifices of mine offerings, and it eat it. But Yahweh accepteth them not. Now will he remember their iniquity and visit their sins. They shall return to Egypt.
So all these things that they was doing over here, they turned into these evil, wicked sacrifices and eating the flesh of people. The Most High said, I'll visit your sins and you'll return to Egypt. Egypt being what? Slavery.
Bondage.
Next verse.
Verse 14. For Israel have forgotten his maker and built temples, and Judah have multiplied fenced cities. But I will send a fire upon his cities, and it shall devour the places thereof.
Palaces thereof. The Spaniards came in, destroyed everything. Palaces, houses, temples, everything. The people, everything. Deuteronomy 28, verse 49.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 49. And Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies.
As you see on the map here, that's the course that the Spaniards took from the top of the west coast of Africa, all the way across the Atlantic into the Caribbean. Go ahead.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
And they were speaking a different language. The Native American Indians didn't understand their language. They came as swift as the eagle, killing, conquering, and from the end of the earth. Go ahead.
A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
They was killing old and young. It didn't matter. It's one of the images up top over the scripture, you see them just going through on the horse with the lance, slaying every and anything they can find. That was what the Spaniards came over and did to the Native American Indians. And we know this to be a curse and punishment for what? Disobeying the Most High God. Back in the book, Destruction of the Indies, we're going to read page 12 and then the next page. The highlight part starts with
page 12, bottom paragraph.
Order.
The Spaniards first assaulted the innocent sheep as in premonition, like most cruel and hungry tigers, wolves, and lions, studying nothing for 40 years after their first landing, but the massacre of these wretches, whom they have so inhumanely and barbarously butchered and harassed with several kinds of torments never before known or heard.
And what we're going to see is this account that Bartholomew de las Casas is giving of what he saw, his eyewitness account. This was prophesied in the Bible before it ever came to be. That's what the asterisks about. Keep going.
Of which you shall have some account of the following discourse, that of 3 million of people which lived in Hispaniola itself, there is at present only a remnant of scarcely 300. So the Isle of Cuba, which extends as far as Valladolid in Spain, is distant from Rome, is now uncultivated like a desert and entombed in its own ruins. You may also find the Isles of St. John and Jamaica, both large and fruitful places, uninhabited and desolate. The Lucian Islands and the north side, adjacent to Hispaniola and Cuba.
Drop down to the highlight part that says, we are sure that the Spaniards, by their barbarous and wretched actions, have absolutely depopulated as much as 10 countries on the mainland, all of greater extent than Spain, Aragon, and Portugal, but together above 1,000 miles in all. The mainland now lays desolate and ruined. It lays desolate and ruined. We're going to see scriptures saying that would happen. Go ahead.
When, as formerly, no other community whatsoever was more populated. We dare to affirm that during the 40 years of the Spanish slaughterous dictatorship in these regions, over 12 million computing men, women, and children have undeservingly perished. I don't conceive that I deviate from the truth by saying that over 50 million in all paid their last debt to nature.
Go ahead.
Those that arrived at these islands from the remotest parts of Spain and who pride themselves in the name of Christians arrived for two primary reasons: to excommunicate and exterminate inhabitants of the islands from the face of the earth. The first,
drop that. The water.
They got there to call somebody savages and stuff like that.
But they were fulfilling prophecy. Hosea 13:8. Hosea 13:8.
The book of Hosea, chapter 13, verse 8.
And the funny thing is, the Most High, he'll use somebody to do his wrath, but they still get punished even though they're doing his will. And that's why they got the punishment coming to them that they do. Hosea 13:8. Go ahead.
The book of Hosea, chapter 13, verse 8. I will meet them as a bear that is bereaved of her whelps, and will rend the call of their heart. And there will I devour them like a lion. The wild beast shall tear them.
And this really happened. This is the Bartolomeo de la Casa, he was describing it, and you can also see it in their artwork, their record of it happening. And what do you see here? You see the wild beast tearing. They got the wild pack of dogs tearing them to pieces, kind of like in Django. And the Edomites, the Spanish, just standing around, probably kind of laughing about it, probably taking bets of who's gonna get torn to pieces the most. This really happened. And it said it would happen because of a punishment. Go ahead.
Because the Spaniards sent back to Spain for Irish wolfhounds, went up into the mountains and catch the brothers that escaped.
Right.
And there they would feed them. Not only that, on the island of Hispaniola, that it was commonly sold indigenous meat of the people, the dogs and other people.
Yeah, and these things are key. These are not to be overlooked, because what's a common argument? Another common argument to make it look like we're just trying to find who we are and we're making up stuff. We're trying to cleave to anything. We want to be Egyptologists or Muslims, or now you want to be Israelites. Everybody's went through atrocities. Everybody, bad things has happened to, but everybody hasn't went through all these things. One of them being everybody hasn't been devoured by dogs like this. This isn't in record books that happening to everybody. And then this is exactly prophesied would happen as a punishment for the sins that we were committing. These idolatrous sins, sacrificing the idols, even to the point of human sacrifice. The scripture said these punishments would come to the Israelites. And when you look back in history, this is who we find suffering these punishments. Yael brought out the perfect scripture at the beginning. No other people would know these judgments. Moving on. Hosea 9:12.
Hosea 9:12. Though they bring up their children, yet will I bereave them. That there shall not be a man left. Yea, woe also to them when I depart from them.
And there, Hosea 13:6. They would be bereaved of their children. Also, Hosea 13:6.
The book of Hosea, chapter 13, verse 6. Samaria shall become desolate, for she have rebelled against her power. They shall fall by the sword. Their infants shall be dashed in pieces, and their women with child shall be ripped open.
And that's exactly what we see here. We see this Edomite Spaniard with 2 babies in his hands.
Feeding them to dogs.
And probably going to go bash them against the wall there. And then you got the friar over here sending a prayer that nobody wants, putting a prayer on this poor child that's being hanged from his mother by his umbilical cord. Or maybe that might be something else, because he looks bigger than a newborn, but he's being hung with his mother. If you see the whole photo, his mom is hanging in that doorway. They're both being hung, and this damn wicked ass Edomite so-called priest is over here sending up prayers to nothing, really. Go ahead.
Salakia. Just land me back off the scripture and what Gamara's referencing, especially the things in this picture. When we went to the Hebrew Summit in January, they were actually commemorating these things, which the people who landed in Tampa, as the pirates were doing, these Spaniards, they were celebrating something called Mariposa. And what they used to do, they used to go through and cut the local native people, and they would cut the baby out of the woman's stomach, and they would bet on what the sex of the baby would be, and just rip the woman open with the sword. And these things were happening to the native populations, the Seminoles, the Tainos, and the Arawaks, who were probably around the surrounding islands and the peninsula of Florida. You know what I mean? So this was definitely happening to the native Indians in the area, and they celebrate this. It's called Mariposa.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when we were doing the actual camp, we was out there. We were in the midst of them celebrating it. Wow. They were celebrating Mariposa. Yeah, I mean, that's why it was so many people walking up and down the strip.
I thought it was just the Buccaneers, like they were celebrating their football team. Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they were celebrating Mariposa. That's what it was. Because I had asked, I was like, what's going on? Why is so many people out right now? And it was like, it was Mariposa. And then I looked it up, and that's what they were doing during the time Mariposa. I actually asked this guy, his name is Tim. He works with me. He's actually a Christian pastor, and he was actually giving me the backdrop of this holiday that they were celebrating down in there, and it's kind of like Mardi Gras and stuff like that. But this is the stuff they was doing. They were cutting out Native women's babies and stuff like that during that time. So we were pretty much out there, and we were testifying against the crowd, and they were celebrating Mariposa.
I wish I knew about that. I would have ran with that.
Yeah,
when it was my turn. But okay, hey, yeah, this is what they celebrate though, because it's fitting that you brought that out. We're about to, not we, but as a people, we out here about to celebrate Thanksgiving. Same thing. We about to be right, just like in Tampa. We was right there along with them going into the clubs. You'd see so-called Negroes, Native Americans dressed up like damn pirates.
Yep. And that's what you celebrating, and they cutting out the babies of the Native people that was there.
Taking in the festivities the whole time. This is a celebration of your downfall.
And they wasn't just doing this in Florida. They was doing this throughout the Caribbean. You know what I mean? So it was happening not only to the natives, but it was happening to the black people who were probably on the islands of Jamaica too. You know what I mean? Because these places were pirate havens. These were pirate coves.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But Andrew Jackson was in the mix as well. He was known as an Indian, the famous Indian killer.
Okay.
Always go into villages and kill.
Yeah, they had a thirst for. I mean, Esau got a thirst for. That's how you know who Esau is. These guys have a thirst for blood. Just like Esau, they have they is embedded in them to use that sword and put it to work. From there, let's go to Leviticus 26 and 21. It was that was the asterisk. So this is still off of that account that we just read in Destruction of the Indies. Leviticus 26, 21, and how this was prophecy of punishment on the children of Israel for worshiping other gods and not keeping commandments.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 26, 21 and 22. And if you walk contrary unto me and will not hearken unto me, I will bring 7 times more plagues upon you according to your sins.
Verse 22.
I will also send wild beasts among you.
And that white man right there, that's your wild beast right there. That's one of the wild beasts. Them dogs, them men standing by, they the wild beasts too. Go ahead.
Which shall rob you of your children and destroy your cattle and make you few in number, and your highways shall be desolate.
And we read about it being desolate also. Oh man. We read about the desolation that the Spaniards left. That the Spaniards left these towns and villages in, right? If you look in the photo, this wild beast standing here, he's standing next. Who can tell what he's standing next to? But a wall of buffalo carcasses. And God said that He would destroy your cattle.
Salakia, and not only that, but some of the native tribes, they were nomadic. So they will move back and forth and graze the cattle from like Missouri all the way down into Texas. So they made their highways barren by them not allowing them to take their cattle and their bison back and forth between this area. Right. And they slaughtered it, and they pretty much took their currency, which would be this cattle or these bisons back and forth between these areas and migrate with them. Yeah, I mean, because they started settling in the area. And then they were taken away from the so-called natives, and then they was trying to set them in certain reservations or territories.
We also see that in the history of the small heads, his methods of warfare is the same warfare that we see him doing in the Middle East. The Palestinians cutting off resources, bringing them without shelter because the buffalo provided the shelters for the clothing. It's food because they would eat it with food respectfully. And it was to starve them out. So a war of attrition has been the way of the small hats forever.
And you're absolutely right, because they take the hides from these buffalo. And if you ever watch them construct, they would have like sewn together many hides, and they would construct their tents and have tent villages like that. So they did take away their livelihood by doing that. Yeah.
Middle East today.
Yeah.
Who would know than a man who's been doing this for thousands of years?
Yep. Living by the sword.
Yes.
You see this photo here, you got the Edomite about to smash the baby. You see them hanging the natives by their necks over a pit of fire. But guess what? Not only that, they got 13 of them hung up at a time. 12 for the apostles, one for Yahushua. They're so godly, they're so holy. We're so holy. We're Christians. They're mocking Yahushua, quote unquote, what they call him, Christ, mocking him and his apostles. But there's a deep there's a spirit to it. The horrors they're doing and mocking Yahushua and the apostles like that, it's actually showing who they are. The Romans, even though they didn't have nothing to do with the laws of God and said that Yahushua is innocent, they still mocked him. They still tortured him before putting him up on that cross.
God.
So it really is spiritual. It shows who they are. It's the same spirit that's trickled down through their ancestors, and it's came out and it's manifested, and you know them by their fruits. From there, Deuteronomy 28:51.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind or flocks, or of thy sheep, until he have destroyed them.
So, and not just so this is a photo. This is another photo of the carcasses, right? Not just that though. Everything, their corn, wine, or all their increase, and that's what the Spaniards did. We're going to actually read an account of that back in the book, Destruction of the Indies. Page of the island is 14 and 15 of the island of Hispaniola. We're going to see just exactly what we just read about the cool wine, the corn, all those things. They were going to take all of that. They was going to eat all that. We would lose it. We're going to read about that right in this book here right now. Go ahead.
Of the island of Hispaniola. On this isle, as we've said, were the Spaniards' first attempt of the bloody slaughter and destruction. First began violently forcing away women and children to make them slaves, ill-treating them by consuming and wasting their food, which they had purchased with great sweat and toil.
What we just free? 28:51 going over prophesying this punishment that we're reading. De la Casa is giving account of right here on the island of Hispaniola. Go ahead.
Even that wasn't enough, and very inconsiderably only provided the food absolutely necessary to support nature without superfluity. When one individual Spaniard consumed more food in one day than would serve to maintain 3 native families in a month, everyone consistently of 10 people.
So one Spaniard's eating more than 10 family of 10 people in one city.
I want to get a precept for that.
Tell me that ain't a devouring wild beast. You got a precept?
Yeah.
All right.
I want to see like around 5. Joe, Obadiah. You have one too?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Genesis 27:41. Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the day of mourning for my father at hand, then I will slay my brother Jacob.
And that's what they came over here to do. They knew it was Jacob. They came over here to slay Jacob.
He gave that commission to his sons to carry it out.
Yeah, facts. Con. Yeah, Obadiah 5.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to read this again. And it says, when one individual Spaniard consumed more food in one day than would serve to maintain 3 native families in a month, everyone consisting of 10 people, being oppressed by such evil and afflicted with such great torments and violence. So it said, man, these people was eating enough in one day to supply a 10 person family in one day that would surpass them for a month, man. A month. And this is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 5. If thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? I mean, if you go picking grapes, you're going to leave some grapes, right, man? If you break into somebody's house, you're going to steal enough where it's that you can make some money. You ain't going to take everything in the house, man. They eating enough where a 10-person family could have survived off of, man.
And that was a rhetorical question for Esau, because no, he's not. He's not going to leave off. He's going to eat everything. He's going to eat as much as a 10-person family would in one sitting, not leaving nothing. That's what they did when they came in.
Jesus Christ.
Go ahead. Let's keep going.
Being oppressed by such evil and afflicted with such great torments and violence, they began to understand that the Spaniards are not on a mission from heaven, and therefore conceal the provisions, sending them to their wives and children lurking in holes. But some, to avoid the obdurate and dreadful temper of Spaniards, sought their refuge on the rugged mountaintops. The Spaniards' cruelty didn't end with cuffs, blows, and wicked cudgeling, but laid violent hands also on the city's governors, which at the height of the audacious acts of certain captains abused the consort of the Isles' most powerful king.
Next page 15, the highlighted part. Spaniards perceived this at once. Is that 15? No, that. Yeah.
The Spaniards perceived this at once, but they, as opposed to the natives' mounted horses, were well weaponed with lances and swords, and began to exercise their bloody butcheries and strategies, overturning their cities and towns, sparing no age or sex, ripping up their bellies, tore them alive in pieces.
No age or sex. We read that, right? That was a punishment. Go ahead.
They laid wagers among themselves who should with a sword at one blow cut or divide a man into two, or which of them should decapitate or behead a man with the greatest dexterity, even farther, which should sheath his sword in the bowels of a man with the quickest dispatch of expedition. They snatch young babes from the mother's breast and then bash the brains out of those innocents against the rocks. Others they cast in the river, scoffing, jeering them, and called upon their bodies when failing with disrespect. This was the true testimony of their cruelty, inhumanely exposing others to their merciless swords together with the mothers that gave them life.
Keep going.
This right here, this is the celebration of Mariposa. This is what they were celebrating when we were down there. You know what I mean? They erected certain gibbets, large but low, made so that their feet almost
the photo
reached
that
the
was
ground.
up. He's describing that photo.
Every one of which was so ordered as to bear 13 people in honor and reverence, as they should blasphemously of the Redeemer and his 12 apostles, under which they made a fire burn them to ashes while they hang. But those that intended to preserve alive, they were dismissed, their hands half cut and still hanging by the skin, to carry their letters to those that fly from us and lay skulking on the mountains. The lords of persons in noble extracts were usually exposed to the kind of death they ordered: gridirons to be placed and supported with wooden forks, and putting a small fire under them, These miserable wretches, by degrees and with loud shrieks and exquisite torments, at last expired. I once saw 4 or 5 of their most powerful lords laid on these gridirons, roasted and not for raw, 2 or 3 moreover spread with the same commodity, man's flesh, but the shrill clamors which were heard there being offensive to the captain by hindering the repose, he commanded them to be strangled with a halter.
Yeah, so this is matching prophecy, though. This is matching to a T the punishments that Yahweh said his people would suffer for turning away from him. Next, I want to go back into Jews in America, or possibilities that the Americans of that race. Americans are Jews, and it reads, the poor Indians for their gold and labor were by the Spaniards hunted out of all places, corners and islands, as if the end of their discovery had been indeed to make a full end, and a total devastation of the American nations. Against the sinning Jews it was said, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, in 28 verse 18. The pestilence shall cleave unto thee, the Lord shall smite thee with the consumption, etc. Verses 21, 22, 35, 29. This is coming from a white Englishman, 1600s. Strange diseases have destroyed the natives, as the histories of those countries do relate. Their cruel taskmasters, the Spaniards, did so much overburden them with load and labor that the cohabitation of man and wife did cease. 7,000 infants of Cuba did perish in 3 months' space. Their mothers, worn out with toiling, had no milk to give them. The Lord said he would smite Israel with blindness, madness, and astonishment of heart. And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. We're crazy, though. This dude sound like he's at camp, don't he? He's bringing it out.
Yeah, he's definitely bringing it out.
He's bringing it out. Deuteronomy 28. Go tell vocab that. Your ancestor wasn't talking that BS you talking about, hater. Next page. God said of the Jews, they should be oppressed and spoiled evermore. That's verse 29. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another shall lie with her. That's verse 30. You shall be left few in number, though ye were as the stars for multitude. We just read that in Destruction of the Indies. They were without number and then taken down to like 300.
Yep, and we read it in more than one book. Like, even when he was talking about Puerto Rico, it said the ones that went into the mountain, they preserved themselves as Ibaros. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's giving testimony right there. And even in the second book, it said the ones who preserved themselves, they hid themselves in the mountains and they came out of the cities. Yeah, I mean, they were killed by 10,000s.
It said, and these Americans were, though you were as stars of multitude, etc. That's verse 62. And these Americans were made by the Spaniards everywhere, every way, miserable without any help or relief. That's Deuteronomy 28, 29. No man shall save thee. Other highlighted part. One of them boasted of his care to leave as many Indian women as he could with child, that in their sale he might put them off to his better profit. So that's Deuteronomy 28, 32. And his better profit, he didn't have no shame of selling his own offspring. He was just going to get a better price for him. Mm-hmm. Is it Deuteronomy 28?
No, Hebrews 12, 16.
Okay,
read it out. Any fornicator or profane person as Esau, for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For ye know how that afterwards that he would inherit blessing, he was rejected.
So go ahead.
For he found no place for repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears.
No wonder he would sell his own offspring, huh? For a better price. He sold his own birthright for a morsel of bread. Ain't nobody more profane than Esau. As we'll find out, ain't really nobody more profane than these Europeans that came over here. Who could they be? While the people they're destroying are suffering exactly what Jacob was suffering. Ain't it crazy? Oh, it's a coincidence. Them niggas don't know what they're talking about. Deuteronomy 28:29. Everything that Thomas Thorogood just mentioned.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28:29. And thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
And this is up to this day still oppressed, and no man has been able to save Native Americans, so-called Hispanics, blacks. Nobody's been able to save them. Emancipation Proclamation. Hey, listen, we're going to give you jobs, but we don't
treaty
have
after treaty after treaty after treaty after treaty after treaty.
You can work jobs now, but hold up, we ain't got nothing for you. At least not. We don't got no pay. We ain't got no jobs with pay. So you're free, but we ain't got no jobs with pay. Want to come to work for some scraps? I ain't got no choice, do I? Keep going.
Yo, can you look up how many treaties they actually made with the Native Americans? Somebody.
Verse 30.
Thou shalt betroth.
We can make that part of like next week's.
Thou
somebody look him up though.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Mm-hmm. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
31.
Thy ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them.
To rescue them. That Englishman quoted all these scriptures happening to the Native American Indians. Destruction of the Indians gives you another account. Same thing. Another eyewitness. Native Americans going through all these punishments of God.
One of the tyrants who followed the steps of John.
Like it's 92 if you want it in the book.
Treaties.
307 treaties.
He broke that many treaties, man. That's crazy. Historically, yeah.
Approximately 107.
The asterisk highlighted part.
Yeah.
Book of Destruction of the Indians, page 92. Go ahead.
One of the tyrants who followed the steps of John and Pudea, a notorious villain, gave way to the slaughter of sheep, the chief food and support of the Spaniards, as well as the Indians, permitting them to kill 200 or 300 at a time, only for their brains, fat, or suit, whose flesh was then altogether useless and not fit to be eaten.
Pause that. So thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. He just said they was killing was he killing? The bison, and leaving them not even fit to eat, just for the brains, fat, and soup. You can't make this up. Go ahead.
But many, you was
right.
But many Indians, the Spaniards' friends and Confederates, followed them, desiring they might have the hearts to feed upon, where they butchered a great many of them for this only reason, because they would not eat the other parts of the body. 2 of the gang in the province of Peru killed 25 sheep who were sold among the Spaniards for 25 crowns, merely to get the fat and brains out of them. Thus, the frequent and extraordinary slaughter of their sheep, over 100,000 head of cattle were destroyed, and upon this account, the region was reduced great penury, and want and perish with hunger.
That's like identical to that curse we just read. Really actually happening. Verse 32.
Verse 32, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
Slavery. We're going to touch more on that with eyewitness accounts. Verse 33.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 33. The fruit of thy land, all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and cursed always.
And that's what we see in the image. And with all the resources. But we got right here in Wilmington, Delaware, the biggest banana port I know of, taking all their resources to the day, and that's what we see in this image. Bananas on bananas on bananas, and they're bringing them to the shiploads, and they ain't getting nothing for it except for oppression. While America eats this shit right up, getting all that bread off of these bananas and resources and fruits from 1,000 miles away. 28:42.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 42. All thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consume.
Locusts being who? The Europeans. They consume all this. All the trees and fruits of the land consumed. Matter of fact, where are the small hats? Where do they even have land with the fruits and trees to be consumed? Where is that at? They came out of Europe. That's like the bottomless pit. Where is all the things they're gonna lose? The Caucasus Mountains, you ain't finding none of this. Petra, you wasn't finding none of that.
Now it's a desert.
Europe, you ain't finding all these different resources for the locusts to consume.
He's not called the waster and destroyer.
Right. Back to the Americans and Jews by Thomas Thorogood. They dealt with the poor Indians not as with beasts, but as if they had been the most abject dung of the earth, similar to Jeremiah 8:1-3, but we're not going to go there. It was said against Israel, cursed shall thy basket be and thy store, 28:17, Deuteronomy. The fruit of thy land, the increase of thy cattle, verse 18. All shall be devoured by enemies and other nations, verse 30, etc., etc. For very much is said of their sufferings in riches and honor. And the Spanish Christians that break into America showed themselves so covetous of their treasure that the natives with wonder said, surely gold is the Spaniards' God. What does was it Amalek? Esau's son Amalek?
No, it wasn't Amalek.
It means God is gold. That was Amalek, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Amalek.
No,
it was one of Esau's sons.
But his name meant my God is gold. I think it started with A, but it don't matter. We went over it. We can find it, but this is what the natives thought of the Spaniards, because what they was taking everything, but of everything they took, they looking back at this and like they really want the gold. That's a lot of gold lust that they got, considering shit we already reading like they taking everything, but they still sitting back and seeing of everything y'all taking, y'all even more thirsty and mouth foaming over this gold we got. Let me keep reading. Surely God is the Spaniards' gold. Eliphaz, my God is gold. They broiled noble Indians on gridirons to extort from them their hidden wealth, giving no respect at all to their caciques or kings. We also read about how everything they did to the common people in that book, they was doing to nobles, governors, and kings. Memorable in many respects is the history of Atabalba, the great king of Peru, who being conquered and captivated by Francisco Pizarro, redeemed his liberty by the promise of so many golden and silver vessels, as should fill the room where they were so high as one could reach with his hand. And they were to take none away till he had brought in the whole sum, expecting thereupon, according to the covenant, his freedom. Talk about breaking truces. He expected his freedom and honor. He dispatched his officers and servants with great care and diligence, and did faithfully perform his bargain in bringing that vast heap of treasure together. But they resolved nevertheless most impiously to murder him, though with many arguments and tears he pleaded for his life, desiring sometime to be sent unto Caesar, then expostulating with them for their persidiousness and falsehood. But neither words nor weeping nor their own inward guilt could nullify those hard hearts. They sentenced him to death by a rope, and the cruel execution followed. Talk about breaking treaties. Above curses mentioned by Thomas Thorogood, Deuteronomy 28:16-19.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. And the storehouse was cursed because, like, he couldn't even buy his freedom. He couldn't buy the freedom of his people. They just took the gold, they broke the treaty, and then they put him to death anyway. And he couldn't redeem himself. He couldn't redeem his people.
In the excerpt you read, he said they had ate so much stuff they were left to with none of it. Like what you just broke down about with that king. We read the excerpt after they ate everything and all that. They were left with nothing and had nothing left but to be slaves. Verse 36.
Verse 36. Yahweh shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone.
That's the king of Peru. That's King Atahualpa, another king of Peru, separate from the one they hung. This one they burned at the stake. And what are they waving in his face? That dreaded cross.
Is this my man? I think this the dude in the picture. This the one. He asked him, would he be in heaven?
Now that's Chief. That's the Ephraimite from the land of Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Or Puerto Rican, Chief Atway. He did that one. This is his execution. Like he was sentenced to be executed, and probably doing the same thing because it's the same religion. It's the same structure. That you got a friar and got his cross. He's probably giving them the same pre-death, prayer and telling them, hey, if you before we kill you, if you profess to be a Christian, you'll go into heaven. He's giving them that whole spiel in this photo. Just so happens to be a different cat. This is one of the kings of Peru, one of the emperors of Peru, or Salaki. He's one of the Incas of Peru. Verse 37.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whither Yahweh shall lead thee.
And everybody here knows what that means. You know the breakdown. Black, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Brazilian. The list goes on. Wetback, Spick, Jungle Nigga,
Jungle Bunny,
Moon all these things.
Yeah, all that
happen as a punishment, just like everything else. Back into the book, Americans or Jews by Thomas Thorogood, dealing with them being children of Israel because of the curses they're suffering in Deuteronomy 28. Their kings and caciques were no more regarded by them than the meanest. They enthralled all the natives in most woeful servitude and captivity. Their sufferings have been most wonderful, such as the book of the law have not register, nor any other record. They spared no age, nor sex, nor women with child. They laid wagers who could dig deepest into the bodies of men at one blow. But with most dexterity cut off their heads. They took infants from their mother's breast and dashed their innocent heads against the rocks. They cast others into rivers. We already read all that in the other book. He's even bringing another prophet in prophecy. He's linking them to the prophet Zechariah 11:5. They kill and hold themselves not guilty. Speaking of the Spaniards, and they that sell them say, "Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich." Also letting you know that they were being sold as slaves. Negro only say the Native Americans wasn't slaves, didn't go on slave ships, all these things. Yes, they did. Slave ships included. We're going to deal with that later. But this so-called white man, who we know as Esau, is breaking it down just like we do. Just like we do. And now, if all these parallels will not amount to a probability, one thing more shall be added, which is the dispersion of the Jews. 'Tis said, the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even to the other. Deuteronomy 28:64. We're going to be dealing with that. The whole remnant of thee I will scatter into all winds. Ezekiel 5:10, chapter 5, verse 10, 12, 14. Zechariah chapter 2, verse 6. I have spread you as the four winds of heaven. This dude's bringing out everything we bring out. 1600s. Talking about his own people. Deuteronomy 28:38.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 38. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it.
Mm-hmm. Next verse.
Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worm shall eat it.
And what are we seeing? Images of our people, the northern tribes of Israel, so-called Mexicans, or this could be anywhere in South America, doing just what? Working these vineyards, working these fields, and not gathering the grapes for the worms. The Europeans, the Americans shall eat them, are eating them. From the time of 1492 up to today, it's the same oppression. Verse 41.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
So just like the so-called blacks, African Americans, the Native American Indians, them and their children went into captivity. Their sons and daughters they begat went into captivity, sold as slaves. Verse 48.
Verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
What are you seeing here in this photo? We're seeing all these things in this photo. Most importantly, you know what else? Amongst our teaching, it's real popular the slave images with the yoke of iron around the neck with the hooks, right?
The feathers.
Well, this is Native Americans, and what are they're yoked up like cattle. They have the yokes of iron on their necks as well. You see? And they're dark. Look at them. They're dark people.
Still
to this day.
I have a scripture, Lamentations 5, 4, and 5.
Uh-huh.
We have drunken water. We have drunken our water for money.
Mm-hmm.
Our wood is sold unto us. Our necks are under persecution. We labor and have no rest.
That's to this day. Especially with those that's below the United States, because the United States is killing them places for their resources, and the natives are still working these fields for pennies a day, and the United States is getting rich off of everything that they got, getting rich off of selling their water back to them, their wood back to them, taking it from the literal land and then running it through a warehouse or factory and putting it back out in the store and having them spend the little bit of pennies they got for their very own wood and water that they can barely afford, and they labored for the United States to make that money off.
Just like the brother Kalak bringing out, so let me back off of that. You got them till this day selling the water back, and then they trying to run poisonous tar sands with the Keystone Dakota pipeline, so they don't have fresh water on their reservations and stuff like that, so they can't feed with cattle and crops or whatever they have out there. They trying to take away their natural resources so to try to make this man dependent on them so that he can serve them in hunger, thirst, and nakedness, and of one of all things. So that's them also living under the curses.
Reiterating the destruction of Buffalo.
Yeah.
Same game.
Mm-hmm. Verse 64.
Verse 64. And Yahweh,
this is one that was quoted by that Englishman in his book, Thomas Thorogood.
And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there y'all shall serve the enemies.
For the scoffers of Deuteronomy 28:68, first and foremost, how does that even happen? How do you scatter people from one end of the earth to the other in a time where planes don't exist? Right? It's the only way. That's the headshot on that. Go ahead.
Yahweh shall scatter thee among all the people from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
You mentioned Chief Atway. Yeah. We just saw the photo with King Atahualpa. They brought what? They brought they brought that false religion of Christianity and Catholicism, that devil's religion. And with it, they brought, like you said, Tammuz cross. They brought idols. They brought what we see here. This is, I believe that's the statue in Brazil. But they brought crosses. They brought statues of who they say is Jesus or Mary. They killed the majority of the natives, and those that were left, they converted into their religion. And up to this day, we still worship who we think is God by these religions. This is Rio de Janeiro, I believe. This statue overlooks the whole city. The whole city. Cats over. Look, Israelites in Brazil today probably wake up in the morning and instead of facing Jerusalem and praying to the Most High God, they probably look up at this statue and kiss their hand and do the sign of the cross before they get their day started. Below it is like a form of rosary. It's something else that they wear, but they use that in prayer. Then also the rosary beads, right? Wood, either way, wood and stone to this day. And it was instituted by who? The Spaniards when they came in and conquered and enslaved. They brought this religion that we still follow today. And Islam too, because that's a good point. Because before Elijah Muhammad, they had who they called the Honorable Minister Farad, who was a white man. That's nasty work, but we'll deal with that when we do the Islam lesson. Go ahead.
First Maccabees 3:41. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much with the servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them.
And that's to show what? They were getting sold. Yeah. You know what else is showing?
And the fame of their labor.
Right.
How intense of the work they were was attractive to the nation.
They wanted that labor. Right. So what does that put a cut in? That they wouldn't be bought. When people were lining up for it. People were lining up for that. So we know that when it says no man will buy you, it really means the same thing as that one scripture said, no man will save you. That's a good precept. And we about to go into the slave ships We about to branch off from here. We about to go into that. That's what we're going to end class on. We're getting close to the end, so I see it's already 4:37. But this happened and it's still happening today. We are like northern Native American Indians and like Mexican, Puerto Rican, whatever, especially the Spanish speaking countries that our people live in today. They are really, really into Catholicism. Here we know that if it ain't Catholicism, it's still the same thing in the Christianity, Baptist, whatever you name it, Seventh-day Adventist, all off of the same root and branch. And they all answer to the Pope. So really, they're all still they're Catholics. You have to answer to the Pope. You're a Roman Catholic. Let's stop playing the games. Vocab, you ain't watching this show. We're too small. But you're a Roman Catholic. You're a Roman Catholic, and we know you're mad because you know that judgment's coming. Moving on. Why ain't my screen on? Hold on. Okay. Well, yeah. All right, now we move it. So, Salaki for that little thing in the corner. I can't get rid of it, but you can see the majority of the image on the screen. And Deuteronomy 28, 65, 66.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, 65 to 66. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have no assurance of life.
And last week we was talking about how the Mexicans, Issachar, how they work sun up, sun down. They just always working. They always working. They able to carry burdens like none other. That's all those tribes in that region in South America. We just know them, and we know that they the most hard working because that's how we know they're Issachar. But all these Native Americans from the time of the conquistadors to the day, this is the life they live. This is the life they're living, just like these images here. This dude looks like he's been carrying bananas from sun up to sundown. These brothers out here in, what's that, probably sugar cane or something, whatever they're doing, they sun up to sundown. And there's no vacation time. They getting the lowest wages. They getting paid worse than us. They getting pennies, and there's no vacation. They got to have 3 families in one house. They're suffering this punishment today.
Labor intensity that was in the islands, like the Jamaican stuff, they worked them so hard that you could find a 28-year-old woman who's never had a period because the labor was so tough.
Right. Right. And that you work enough, it changes your, how your body works. It said that the native, when the conquistadors came, the women was worked so hard that their breast was dry. And it's crazy. This is how you also know that everybody that comes in and claims being truth and claims to be Israel, everybody doesn't actually study or read or really believe. That's why you got the folks in the world, which I call the nope. Phobie, I call them the nope. These brothers ain't actually studying. They're not actually doing nothing but just talking a whole bunch of BS. You go into the Bible, matching up the punishment, same as us. They going through it. You go into historical accounts from scholars, same way you can find them writing about us. You can find them writing about them.
Sure.
But they'll take the white man's word for being black and being an Israelite. Oh, look, they wrote this back in 1600s, but then they'll discard it up with the natives. It's just all simple-minded Negro shit. But it's like we're proven without a doubt, though.
And then try to show you for using this information to prove that they're the Israelites, and then they'll be using the information to prove that they the Israelites the same. Like, that's hypocritical.
Exactly. Makes zero sense. They'll use white man's accounts and use it for the black narrative, but then turn around and say the natives, the so-called Spanish, on down, Americans, North, South, and Caribbean. Oh, nah, they not Israelites. Oh, the white man wrote that. You can't use these scholars, but we can. Like, that's what he's saying. Hypocritical.
And the small hats are good for taking history like this, allowing it to dismiss a generation, and then they'll put pictures and images of themselves as if the crimes to be committed on us was them.
Yeah,
right.
They love that. They love being able to ride on somebody else's sorrows. To create a lying narrative.
So this is the last point of the class today. I'm bring out the evidence. We got a few different accounts that's going to prove that this happened. First, Deuteronomy 28:68.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. And I shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And thou shalt be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
No man shall buy you. So we know that the so-called African Americans, blacks, Negroes were on slave ships. Did the Indians ever go on slave ships?
Yes, absolutely.
The answer is absolutely yes.
Absolutely.
First book, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders. And we'll start at, this is dealing with the islands, Hispaniola and stuff like that. It stated, oh, you need the page, huh?
That's all right.
Just, you can read here, right?
The book of Lost Tribes and Promised Lands.
Yeah.
And it is stated that these islands formerly abounded in various products, which constituted the riches. I say formerly, for they are now deserted. The reasons for this is the large numbers of the wretched islanders were transported to the gold mines of Hispaniola.
How were they transported?
By ships.
Gotta be, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And Ferdinandina, Cuba, when the native inhabitants there were exterminated, exhausted by disease and famine, as well as by excessive labor, 1,200,000 of them disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them died like the natives of Cuba and Hispaniola before many not even surviving the dreadful conditions of the slave ships onto which they were crammed unmercifully.
Oh, many of them not even surviving the dreadful conditions of the slave ships unto which they were crammed unmercifully. That's Las Casas writing. He's referencing Las Casas. They were on this too. They were on these. The same way they're crammed, the Native American Indians were crammed just like that.
And then you got brothers who will argue that they're not everywhere. Well, we come in variations of hues. They come in variations of hues too. And they were taken to places like Algeria, Spain, Portugal, Tangiers, Morocco, and the northern part of Africa, which you call Mauritania. So how can you say they're not scattered everywhere too?
Mm-hmm. Did you mention Spain?
Yeah, I did say Spain. Hawaii, yep, Blackbird in the South Pacific during the time of Captain Cook. They rebelled against him, actually. They actually took the Tainos from Puerto Rico, and they took them to the Polynesian Islands, and they created their own island called Tahiti. That's where the word Tahiti comes from, the Taino Indians, and that's where the Tainos dwell in the Polynesian Islands. So they're actually the same people as the people of Puerto Rico.
Kind of. Bartholomew de las Casas, the destruction of the Indies, speaking on the inhabitants of Nicaragua. Go ahead. Nicaragua.
This being frequently repeated between the year 1523 and 1533. The kingdom lost all their inhabitants, for in 6 or 7 years' time, there were constantly 5 or 6 ships made ready to be freighted with Indians.
5 or 6 ships to be freighted. Slave ships, cargo slave ships. Go ahead.
That were sold in the regions of Panama and Peruism, where they all died.
So they were coming from Nicaragua, and then they were shipped to Panama and Perusium. And guess what? That's still scattered. They wasn't from these lands. A lot of people think of the Native Americans and be like, if you was taken from Peru and sent to Mexico, you wasn't scattered. Yes, you were.
Absolutely.
For one, it wasn't. You didn't have trains, planes, and they didn't even have horses. So they say. So that's like being displaced from Peru to Mexico is like the modern day being displaced from here in Delaware to like the east coast of Africa. Because we got planes. They didn't have that. You're traveling by foot. That's a whole nother world. The other highlighted part.
By this means, there have been taken out of this province over 500,000 inhabitants.
That's a lot of slaves on slave ships.
Whom before were free men and made slaves.
This isn't just 1 or 2. This is 500,000. Yucatan Peninsula. Same book. Kingdom of Yucatan. Highlighted part.
The kingdom was very, very well populated, in both for climate and plenty of food and fruits, in which respect it is most fertile than Mexico, but mainly with honey and wax. It exceeds all the Indian countries that have been discovered at present.
That other highlight part.
In general, he made slaves of those whose lives he spared, and sent away such ships as were driven by the wind of report, loaded with them, exchanging them for wine. Oil.
So the boy for wine, or is it a girl for wine?
It's in the pocket.
So the boy for wine, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
and a girl for Harley.
It ain't just the Negro, huh?
No, it ain't just.
It ain't just the Negro.
You want to get that?
It ain't just. No, we ain't gotta get it because of time purpose. But it ain't just the Negro.
In general, he made slaves of those whose lives he spared, and sent away such ships as were driven by the wind of a port, loaded with them, exchanging them for wine, oil, vinegar, salt pork, garments, pack horses, and other commodities.
Venezuela mainland and coastal, and the Venezuelan mainland, coast, and islands. Same book.
A short time after, the Spaniards built a stately house, which was an apartment for the Indians, that they might accomplish their premeditated designs, which was thus effected when they were to thatch it and had raised it 2 men's height. They enclosed several of them.
That must have been a mistake. Highlighted part.
From hence they set sail to the island of St. John with near upon the 180 slaves whom they had bound, where they sold 1/2 of them, and then to Hispaniola, where they disposed of the rest.
So they were taken from Venezuela. They were taken to the island of St. John, Hispaniola. They were scattered from. They were taken from their home, and they were scattered to other lands to what? Be slaves. Go ahead.
But the said Lord Alphonsus was deceitfully over-persuaded to go on board of them with his wife and about 17 more, pretending that they would give him a coalition, which the prince and they did, for he was confident that the religious would by no means abuse him, for he had no such confidence in the Spaniards. But as soon as they were upon deck, the perfidious rogues set sail from Hispaniola, where they were sold as slaves.
This was a lord, basically a king. It said even the kings would be scattered, right? We see that happening with the natives of Nicaragua. We see it happen with all the natives. All the natives, Deuteronomy 28:32.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
And that's exactly what just happened to this Lord and his family. They were taken, deceived, and sold as slaves and separated, and it was no might in his hand as a king to do nothing about it. Same book, same Venezuelans. Go ahead.
But afterward, when arrived and driven up in the isle, they are brought to be sold. There is no person that is in some small measure compassionate, but would be extremely moved and discomposed at the sight to spy on old men and women together with naked children half starved. Then they separate parents from children, wives from their husbands. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Wives from their husbands, about 10 or 20 in a company, and cast lots for them, that the detestable owners of the ships may have their share.
Next highlighted part.
That from the time they entered the country to this very day, 17 years in all, they have remitted many ships freighted with Indians, so to be sold as slaves to the Isles of St. Martha, Hispaniola, Jamaica, and St. John, selling 1 million people at the least.
1 million people from Venezuela.
I speak modestly, and still to expose the sale to this very year of our Lord 1542, the King's Council, and this island seeing and knowing it.
Drop that. New England. New England, lost tribes in promised lands. You can start. You can start at the top.
In some ways, the Indian Squanto, a solitary wanderer without a home, is austere. New England's counterpart to the romantic Lady Pocahontas of Virginia. Like her, he was a quiet, sacrificial victim to the earliest successful colonization efforts by Englishmen in America.
You can drop down to the highlight part now.
He had thus behaved in violation of English customs in the New World, not by kidnapping Indians, which was common enough, but by selling them on foreign markets.
By what?
By selling them on foreign markets.
So I had to read top just to establish New England. So these Englishmen, Slagia, I said I had to read Captain John Smith. He was violating English customs in the New World by selling them on foreign markets. He had thus behaved in violation of English custom in the New World, not by kidnapping Indians, which was common. So it was okay to kidnap them, but they had a problem with selling them. So guess what? They were doing it anyway. So they were selling them on foreign markets. How are you getting the foreign markets once again? Who knows? How you getting foreign markets? Ships.
That's right.
Slave ships. That's the New Englanders. Same New Englanders, the same book, highlighted part.
We demanding the reason of it. They told us she had 3 sons who, when Master Hunt was in these parts, went abroad his ship to trade with them, and he carried them captives into Spain.
So they was taken from New England all the way to Spain.
For Squanto at the time was carried away also, by which means she was deprived of the comfort of her children in her old age.
Children taken sold into slavery and no might to do anything about it. Deuteronomy 28, 64, 65 again.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, 64, 65. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there shalt thou serve other gods, which neither thou nor your fathers have known, even wood and stone. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind.
Same book, highlighted part.
Not finding things to answer.
Still New England?
Answer: their expectations nor profit to arise. They looked for Captain Wallenstein takes a great part of the servants and transport them to Virginia, where he puts them off at good rates, selling their time to other men.
So the natives up in New England, they was taking on ships down to Virginia. And so other highlighted part.
You see, saith he, that many of your fellows are carried to Virginia, and if you stay till this Ransdell return, you will also be carried away and sold for slaves with the rest.
Natives of America sold in slavery all over the place. Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, page 340. The Pequots.
Pequots. Some Pequots apparently were kept as bondsmen by the English, but it was found preferable to have the remnants of Amalek out of the sight altogether. 17 of the captives, 15 boys and 2 women, were sent to be traded off as slaves in the West Indies.
Pequots are in New England, right?
Yeah.
Sent from New England all the way to the West Indies.
John Winthrop tells us this, and also writes in an entry for the following February that the Captain William Pierce, who had taken out this cargo of the Pequots, returned from the West Indies, and after 7 months, he had been at Providence Island and brought some cotton and tobacco and Negroes, etc., from thence, and salt from the Tortugas. Mm-hmm. In other words, the remnant of New England dreaded enemies had been bartered.
So the Pequots had been bartered
for, among other things, some Negro slaves.
So we got Negroes talking about the natives ain't slaves. Ain't Israelites because they didn't go in slavery on ships. But what we find out is not only did they, but sometimes the price paid was Negro slaves. They were traded together.
Yep.
One came on the same boat one way, and the other went back on the same boat the other way.
Yep.
Stop playing games, and stop slaving for Esau so damn much. We ain't got time to get in an actual book.
So that means they was taking slaves from over there in Ghana and probably taking natives from over here and trading the Indians back over there. And they over there, you don't even know who they are because they was just all a part of the slave trade.
We're going to end out with this real quick. Amos 9:4.
The book of Amos, chapter 9 and 4. And though they go into captivity before their enemies, thence will I command the sword, and it shall slay them, and I will set mine eyes upon them for evil and not for good.
Not for good. And this is an image of Native Americans. Everybody knows about the civil rights struggles, the struggles of the black man in America, but the same thing is for the Mexicans, Central Americans, South Americans. The image here on the screen is just a quick visual of the sword. Even after going into captivity, the sword still pursuing these people of Panama. If you look on YouTube, there's a video. I think you can still pull it up, but I watched it on YouTube, called "The Panama Deception," going into the account of how they, for one, stole the Panama Canal, all the wickedness they did to get the Panama Canal, how they came down there and they tested out military weapons on the natives of Panama. In the image you see, this dude got his head a softball size hole in his head, and is maybe even bigger than that. It's like, I believe they said that was a military laser weapon they were testing out. You gotta watch the documentary if you get a chance. I put it up in the corner. It's called The Panama Deception. You see this car here in the corner. A U.S. military tank rode over this car. Not only were they, and then you see the soldiers. What is it called when they in the bush? They call them soldiers.
Snipers.
But whatever. The soldiers, they got all the dead native Panamanians laid out in the street. They just killed them. They was going through the cities, killing everything. It didn't matter, man, woman, child. I believe this car that got ran over had a family in it. But the same way the sword pursued the so-called blacks here in America, even though after captivity up to this day, it's the same thing with the natives of Americas, who we know to be the northern tribes of Israel. So without a doubt, we've proven through archaeology, history, anthropology, the Bible, we've proven without a doubt the natives of America, North and South, and the Caribbean islands to be without a doubt children of Israel, of the northern tribes who was put out of the land in the time of Salmanasar. Khan? And that we're going to hold up. Try to move this, and then we're going to end the class right there. Before we close out, let me remove this share screen. Con. You want to close it out? You want me to?
Once again, we want to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yahweh in the name of His Son Yahweh Shai. We are Hebrew Church. We fellowship here in Wilmington, Delaware, and you can find our videos here on YouTube at HCE Red Pill Reality, HCE Reloaded. You can find our videos at Rise of the Chosen on Facebook. And if you'd like to give any alms, give alms at Hebrew Chosen Elect on Cash App. And if you got any questions, hit us up on Facebook or in the comments. And with that, we say shalom.
And if you'd like to get our personal numbers, hit us up on Messenger. And ask us for if you want to contact us through cell phone calls, whatever. Contact us through Messenger first, request it, and then we'll certainly give it to you. That's all I was going to add.
With that, we say, Kwame Yasharallah. Kwame Yasharallah. Kwame Yasharallah. Kwame Yasharallah. Kwame Yasharallah. Kwame Yasharallah.
Shalom.